Hello and welcome back to a brand new episode of the Pick a Side podcast. My name is Joel Moran and I'm here with River Brown, Andrew Velez, and Joe Dehls. This is now episode 406. In this episode, we are going to give our week 2 NFL predictions, go by every single game, preview it a little bit if it's worth previewing, because there's some games, at least one of them, Ravens and Raiders, that we could just breeze by it. Sorry, Raiders fans, but we know the Ravens are an elite football team and the Raiders are
That's what we said last week about a couple of those games, and I don't know, man.
Yeah, well,
Isn't
today,
that the truth?
week 2 predictions. We did week 1 last week. We're doing 3 episodes per week. Monday, or the Tuesday episode, will be more football recap. Wednesday will be predictions for week 2, and then Friday will be basketball. We're about to start getting into team preview soon because basketball is not too far away.
Yeah, about a month away.
It's getting to the point where it's the best time of year. We have football, and we have basketball, and we have baseball. It's really just an unbelievable trio of sports occasions, but the picks shouldn't be too hard, truthfully. Going through them, I felt pretty confident in my picks. One game that I really, even still, I don't have a winner outright in my mind. But other than that, I feel pretty confident in my picks.
Do you guys feel the same way?
I was telling Drew in the car, I'm going to this shit blind, man. Been a busy few days at work. I have not had a chance to go in and really do a deep dive, but I took a quick glance at the slate, and I feel pretty confident where I'm going to go for like 90% of these games. There's a couple games we're going to come on here. I might start rambling. I might start trying to figure it out as I go because I don't know. A couple of these games are going to be a little tough.
Definitely on the same vibe as Dehls. Couple busy days. I think when I saw the slate, probably like 3 or 4 games I was thinking about. But other than that, I think like I said before, I think we're all going to have similar answers today.
Tell you what, when I was in nursing school, it was one of my favorites when we would do the pick-ems, be like, all right, let's see what I can do on this week where I just had no time to do anything. But we'll see how it goes. Now I got a little bit more time. Now there's no excuse.
John, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. This was a
Johnny
great
boy.
week 1 of football. My Steelers had a huge win over the
I
Falcons.
told you the Steelers were going to win.
And
Chill, you do.
I knew it.
You're
I knew
here.
it.
I hate this.
Who do you hate more?
Who do you wear?
Me or John?
Oh, easily you.
Ah.
Yeah, it's like no, like
That's
John.
question.
John, I dislike you. I hate.
Word. Okay.
Wow.
Yeah.
Where's that hate stem from, Rev?
I know where it stems from.
Yeah. Wait, between you or him?
Combination of both.
John, you know why?
Yeah.
Yeah, you know why.
It's been a long time.
Oh,
Long time he's hated me for.
I was born into this.
Since before I was born, he's hated me.
fair enough.
I
Fair
was
enough.
born into this hate, man.
I thought it was unpersonal.
Yeah, how about we move this table a little bit more to me?
Yeah, do it.
Nice, need that.
Okay, we can get started with the first game. Thursday night football.
Woo!
Buffalo Bills at the Miami Dolphins. The Dolphins are 2.5-point favorites. Matt Milano has been injured for a while. We know that. But Teron Johnson also is not going to play in this game.
Correct.
And for the Dolphins, Raheem Mostert won't play. Devon Achane is questionable. Those are the
Game-time
two
decision.
He is a
notable
game-time.
ones for him. What do you guys think?
I'm going to be transparent. This one was the one that I really had difficulty with, but did come to a conclusion. I am going with Miami in this situation because they are the home team.
We are not shocked.
No, agreed. But I did say this to Joel, and I'm keeping it fair and honest. If the Dolphins lose this game, regardless of the outcome, the next time around, I will pick the Buffalo Bills.
When do they play?
Win or lose. Oh, that's
Later in the
That's
year?
yeah, it is later. It is
probably
later.
15
But
or
win
something.
or lose, I will be choosing the Buffalo Bills. If they win, obviously, I think it's a split. But if they lose, home field advantage, especially late in the season, I still think the Bills will have that advantage. But early on, didn't love the defense that Buffalo played against Arizona. Although we are higher on Arizona's offense, it wasn't supposed to be 17-3 in a blink of an eye. I get that Josh Allen turned the ball over and gave them plus field position very quickly. They were still able to capitalize and put points on the board. And the Bills were able to come back in the game, ultimately win it, but it was extremely close and way too close for comfort. Josh Allen also with a banged up left hand, non-throwing hand. I think that the Bills defense is going to be good enough to somewhat limit Miami. Of course, we saw what their corners were able to do. They did a great job of also playing defense against Dalton King. Oh, excuse me. They did a great job of limiting Marvin. They did a great job of limiting Trey, who obviously did score, but other than... Did Trey score actually? No,
think so.
Michael Wilson. Apologize. Michael Wilson was able to get into the end zone, but they did a great job playing defense on Trey McBride. They will do well at stopping Miami's run. However, I don't think that the whole game you'll be able to stop Tyreek and or Jalen Waddle, who looked really good, especially against a pretty firm Jaguars defense. Dolphins looked like shit in the first half, looked really good in the second. I think that this game, Miami goes out there, pulls out a tough win. I don't think that the Bills' offense is going to be as tough as it was last season when they met first go round. So I'm taking Miami here in a very good game.
Yeah, Buffalo won both outings last year. First time was 48-20, I believe.
Yep.
Second game was a little bit closer. This was one of the tough ones when I was looking at the slate, but I am going to go with the Buffalo Bills here. I think, Drew, what you mentioned, being the home game, Miami does get the edge. They are favored in this game. And both of these teams, when you look at week one, I think there's things you're concerned with, right? Miami in week one had to kind of come back from behind victory. Both these teams come back from behind victory. And Jacksonville really didn't get a lot of pressure on Miami and the Dolphins. They had one of the lower pressure rates in the NFL in week one. But we do know Miami's bread and butter is to get that ball out quick. So it is difficult to pressure the quarterback when that's their style of play. So I'm not shocked by that. I don't know if Buffalo is going to have a whole bunch of pressure just because of the offense Miami runs. I'm a bit worried about the running backs in Miami. Of course, Joel mentioned at the top of this that Raheem Mostert and Achane potentially both out. Of course, with Miami's offense and just their scheme similar to Shanahan, whatever running back's back there is probably going to produce. But I will say in the first game we saw, the run blocking unit was not as dominant as it was last season when Raheem Mostert led the league in rushing touchdowns, when Achane was averaging like 8 yards a carry. It did not look like that same force offensively. We discussed losing a couple offensive pieces, why that could be. And Buffalo has their own concerns, right? Why are you down double digits? Why are you down 2 touchdowns to the Cardinals? So we are expecting to be, not a pushover, but probably, one of the bottom 10 to 12, 15 teams in the league, not a defense that scares anybody. And this was a team that really struggled, especially in the first half of that game. But I do think Buffalo over the last couple of times just had Miami's number. It's going to be a close game, though. I'm just going to pick Buffalo. I think Josh Allen gets back on track. Although the hand injury is a bit concerning, I'd be more concerned if it was his right hand that he throws with.
In the last 5 games, the Bills have been 4-1 against the Dolphins. Josh Allen, 15 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, 110 passer rating. His throwing hand is not injured, so it doesn't worry me that much. Josh Allen's a gamer. He's played through tougher injuries than this before. The Miami Dolphins allowed almost 5 yards per carry to Jacksonville Jaguars running backs. Tank Bigsby made up most of that. ETN fumbled in the red zone, and that's what cost the Jaguars the game. ETN wasn't as efficient. I think the key for this game is going to be the defensive line for the Bills. Gregory Rousseau's coming off a 3-sack game. He had a breakout performance. Von Miller has 6 pressures. He looked like the normal Von Miller self in Buffalo before he got hurt, and last year he was coming back from that, and that's why he was a little bit washed last year. But I think a year off of that, fully recovered, and now playing more like his old self, I think the Bills' defensive line has a little bit of an edge. And Ed Oliver going up against Aaron Brewer, I also think that's a mismatch. The key for the Buffalo Bills is that their defense, I think Teron Johnson's a huge loss, and I don't want to understate that. But their defense, they're going to let Tua pepper the short areas of the field. Their bread and butter on defense is not allowing explosive plays. And I thought the Dolphins, when the Jaguars played them defensively in week one, they looked very muddy. I mean, the Dolphins won the game off of their explosive plays because the Jaguars played an ultra-aggressive style. But can they have those 2 explosive plays against the Buffalo Bills? I don't know if that's going to happen. I'm leaning with the Bills in this game. I think this game is uber important for both teams.
For sure.
This could decide the division later on in the season. And I'm going to go with the Buffalo Bills. Primetime, night game. Sun isn't going to be beaming. And I think the defense will play well, and I think their offense will play well because I don't think the Dolphins' defense, their secondary, didn't play that great against Jacksonville. In the first half, their offense was amazing. And Jacksonville has something to figure out because I think they switched play callers at each half.
Shit, that game was very much a trip. Thursday night, sun won't be beaming. That actually won't be the sun.
Yeah, no excuses.
That's a big difference.
Yeah, scorching right over there. So it's gonna be nice. It's gonna be dark out. It's gonna be a nice little vibe. I like what you said. I think Buffalo's defensive line, I think that's really the key. And I think the reason Rod Gregg was able to have such a big game is because Von Miller is back to his normal self. Von Miller is able to get to the quarterback. He talked about it. He was like, he got a sack for the first time in such a long time. He felt so good about it. He felt excited about it, because Von has been, struggling with the washed allegations. It definitely hasn't been himself. But that game, he was pretty good.
For that.
Yeah, he was pretty good, and Greg was able to bounce off that. Teron Johnson is definitely a huge loss. I love him as a corner. I think he's one of our best defensive players on the team. And him, Rasul Douglas, Christian Benford, they make up a nice, solid trio right there. And not having Teron in a matchup like this is really important. But like you mentioned, in that game, they tried not to allow the big plays, and I think for Miami, you don't want to allow those big explosive plays because that's what give Miami life. That's what hypes them up, gets them excited, and that's what really gets Tua going. And I think for their offense, this could be a big run game offense for the Buffalo's offense. I think James Cook can get it going. Josh Allen, we saw him get crazy with his feet, so he can do that. And I just think they're gonna. If they can just manage the clock well, eat up a lot of that clock, eat up a lot of that time. Kind of similar to how they played the first time 2 years ago in Miami. They was able to eat up the clock. They just couldn't make plays down the end. If they can do that in this game, eat up the clock, make big plays, timely big plays like they did with Arizona with the big Keon Coleman play or the Khalil Shakir Yak play, if they can just do that in spots, take up a lot of the time, I think they can get this win. So I got Buffalo.
One thing I'm looking forward to also is we saw Teron Armstead put up an amazing performance versus the Jaguars. Someone who else put up amazing performance, Liam Eichenberg. Surprised the hell out of me. He has not been good for Miami, but he had himself a great ball game, one of the highest graded offensive linemen this past weekend. I'm interested to see how the offensive line looks against a notch up when it comes to a pass rush. Of course, we saw Trayvon Walker, and he definitely was leaving his impact on the game. But when you have multiple guys like Greg Rousseau, and you have, of course, Von Miller now, if he's back to form, which obviously the game would love. Von Miller's a NFL legend, and it was pretty shitty to watch him struggle last season. But when he is healthy, he is a difference maker. And of course, it was week 1 going up against the Arizona Cardinals, but Von Miller deserves that respect and at least a little bit of a pass on playing for one down season. But if this offensive line goes out there and performs again similarly how they did perform against the Jaguars, it allows all Dolphins fans to have a little bit of sense of optimism moving forward. Because last year when they went up against Buffalo, when they went up against all good teams, one of the main issues that kept on happening was the offensive line giving up too many sacks and getting a lot of pressure on Tua. And although Tua is one of the best quarterbacks against the blitz, sometimes there's just not much that you can do, especially when you're taking sacks. And we saw this past weekend against the Jaguars, Tua took 2 sacks, one that took him out of field goal range and one that ended up leading them to punt the ball away after one of those explosive plays to Jalen Waddle. So it's just a matter of avoiding those situations, making sure take what's being given to you like Tua has always done, and just continue to push the ball down the field and give yourself a scoring opportunity. This game's going to be good. And again, I see a route where both teams win. But again, it's early on in the season. I don't love what I saw from the Buffalo Bills against the Arizona Cardinals, although they did put it together. Same could be said for Miami. It's just their pass offense can still thrive against anyone, I believe.
You got John?
It's hard for me to go up against Josh Allen and not pick him in this matchup for me personally.
Fair.
I was impressed last week with Buffalo, find themselves down 17-3 versus the Cardinals, and then making their way back into winning that game. And a little bit of a stat head statistic for you. Josh Allen is 6-1 versus Tua in his career. And Tua versus Buffalo has a negative touchdown interception ratio, 6 touchdowns and 7 INTs. I think for this Buffalo defense, losing Teron Johnson's a huge loss because that secondary is really going to be the best way they can contain this Dolphins offense. But I think this game being at 8 o'clock, like you mentioned, is going to be a big difference, and that's why I'm more comfortable leaning with Buffalo because they're not going to have the sun beaming on them. So I think it's a close game, but I have to go with the Bills being able to win a close game.
If it was a 1 o'clock game, I would have been a lot more teetering
Absolutely.
with
John,
Miami.
why the hell did you pick Carolina last week? I meant to ask you that.
We'll get to them later.
He likes Bryce Young. That's why.
Oh, okay.
He likes
That
Bryce Young.
makes sense.
I think Dalton Kincaid is going to have a big game.
I hope so. I say I hope so because I have a lot of stock in when it comes to fantasy football. And damn it, he pissed me the hell off this past weekend against Arizona. But I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. They were playing
Why are you so upset at him? He's getting triple team.
But that's exactly why I say that. I
think
can
that-
only be so mad because, again, the defense that Arizona
sure
was
he
playing
didn't
was trying to
expect
limit
him
it.
to come out there and
But
triple team himself.
first week, I already have had my questions. You can ask him when we talk about Dalton Kincaid on the fantasy reaction. When Stephon Diggs got taken out of the offense, taken out, of course, lesser role, a lot more attention being drawn to him, opens up the field for everyone else. He only scored one time in those games where Stephon Diggs was not the alpha on the offense. One time, and that was the game versus the Denver Broncos halfway towards the season. That's kind of where I do have my reservation with Dalton Kincaid because, again, they still have Dawson Knox. They utilize him regardless in the pass. Is he the best weapon? Absolutely. And our defense is going to give him that attention. It seems that way. But it allows, when you have Josh Allen, you shouldn't be playing triple coverage because he's going to find whoever's open. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, I think the bigger concern, not even that Dalton Kincaid, because he did get triple teamed a lot, but Buffalo was losing in this game. They only had 23 pass attempts. Like, this is a team that's going to want to run the ball. It's a team that looks like it's going to be Josh Allen, James Cook, and then you get peppered in with Dalton Kincaid. And Keon Coleman was a team led the team in targets, receptions, receiving yards. He was really the alpha of this offense. So I don't know if that was just a scheme thing because you're going up against Arizona, but it's just a bit odd that you're losing a majority, basically all of this game, and Josh only has 23 pass attempts.
I think it was more of just whoever's open, because you don't have. I think Kincaid is the promising star. He's the one that has probably the most potential, but you don't really have an alpha. Like, an alpha is a guy who's kind of already established, a guy who kind of already separates himself from the pack. But you kind of drafted Keon Coleman in the first round, I believe.
Yep.
You have Khalil Shakir, you have Curtis Samuel, you have Dawson Knox, like
Second
you mentioned.
round. First pick of the second round.
You have James Cook. Like, you have all these still solid weapons. You kind of don't want to be in that element of trying to force feed Dalton Kincaid.
Mm-hmm.
If he's able to get that attention of where he's getting double teamed, he's getting triple teamed, I'm sorry for your fantasy team, but that is probably the most important thing because it frees up guys like Keon Coleman, Khalil Shakir, and stuff that like that to where they can get open in the middle of the field and break plays. But 23 pass attempts. I mean, I don't know. They want to run the ball. I think that's gonna be their identity. I wouldn't say, because I feel like he had a couple more attempts that he could have got to 30, but he ran the ball. Like, a lot of times he was running the ball and stuff like that. So I don't know. They're like trying to figure it out. And plus, Arizona's defense is truly awful, and their run defense is probably one of the worst in the league. So it's just like, why not just keep dominating them on the ground?
49ers at Vikings. The Niners are a 6.5 point favorite. The Vikings beat them last year. Kirk Cousins had the best game of his career. Justin Jefferson didn't even play, but TJ Hawkinson did. But this is a new team. They have Sam Darnold now. I guess the question here is, do you think Sam Darnold can build off of his Giants performance? Can he play well against the Niners to give the Vikings a chance in this game?
I respect Kevin O'Connell. I think that he is one of the premier offensive play callers. And for that, he has a chance to put together a respectable performance. However, it's not going to move me enough to obviously pick Minnesota in this game. 6.5, I would lean taking the points on San Francisco because last time they matched up, he did not have CMC, if I'm not mistaken, and did not have Trent Williams. That was that span of games, that 3 games where it was the Browns, it was Minnesota, and I believe, if I'm not mistaken, the Bengals also were in that trio of games. But now we saw a lot this past Monday when Trent Williams is on the field. It does not matter. That offensive line is going to be one of the better units because he holds it down on Brock Purdy's blind spot. And apparently you don't need CMC because Jordan Mason has now asserted himself as a respectable running back, especially in this San Francisco offense. So do I think Minnesota can build off what they showed versus the Giants? Sure, because we respect the Giants' defense, and they were still getting a ton of pressure. It just didn't result in negative plays because Sam Darnold was very smart with his decision-making. And the run game also, they could do whatever they want. Aaron Jones was uber efficient on very limited touches. So I think it'll be a similar show let me not say similar. I think it'll be a little watered-down version of what they showed against the Giants, but it won't matter.
Yeah, I don't think Sam is going to start 12 for 12 again.
No way.
I don't know if he's going to have that kind of performance, but I think Drew's right. What Kevin O'Connell has showed with, it's not even just Sam. It's last year with Nick Mullins. It's obviously with Kirk Cousins, who's a good quarterback in his own right. He's able to uplift quarterbacks. He's able to uplift just the offensive system in general. And I don't know if we have a status report on Jordan Addison. Believe he's questionable. I'm not 100% sure if he's going to play. Of course, that's going to have a big impact because you're already down TJ Hawkinson, and it's really just Justin Jefferson there. But of course, I'm going to San Francisco 49ers in this game. I don't think Sam Darnold is going to be the reason why they lose this game. I just think they're overmatched really at every level, offensively, defensively. There's not much that Minnesota could go up with and be like, this is where we can beat you. Of course, you have Justin Jefferson, who's going to be able to beat basically every DB in the NFL one-on-one, whether you're playing man, whether you're playing zone. So Sam Darnold's going to be able to kind of pick his spots there. But we also saw Justin Jefferson not have his biggest day against the Giants. It's a game they were up big, so it's not like they had to pass the ball a ton. ton, but only had around 60 yards, 58 yards, did have that touchdown
59.
in the red zone area. So it's not like Jett is going to go out there and really be able to put the team on his back. But I think Darnold's going to have moments throughout the year where he's going to have like the 12 for 12 start. He's going to have 300 yards. He's going to have multiple touchdown games. But going up against San Francisco, although they are at home, it is a dome, controlled environment. I think the stats will be fine. 250 yards, 2 touchdown, interception, maybe a fumble, but I'm not expecting that to result in a win.
This feels like one of the trap games of the week. I think the Vikings are going to be a tough team to play all year long.
Take the Vikings.
I'm not taking the Vikings, but this is going to be a tough game to play. Brian Flores makes it tough on any quarterback. I mean, it showed last year when the Niners went up against the Vikings because he just throws so many different looks at you. Van Ginkel is questionable. He has an ankle injury. Who knows if he's going to play? Jordan Addison, he probably is not going to play.
He made one of the plays of the weekend last weekend.
Christian McCaffrey, we know, is probably not going to play because they should save him, and Jordan Mason played awesome, and I think he is a really good running back. Brock Purdy against the Vikings was playing well until he didn't play well. Like in the fourth quarter, that was when he made his boneheaded plays, and he cost the Niners that game. I think the 49ers are better this year than they were last year. They lost Eric Armstead, but Malik Collins is just as good as him. He might be even better right now.
In there too.
Malik Collins is awesome, and Leonard Floyd is as reliable as a second edge rusher that you can have in this league. That was a major problem for the Niners last year. When Dre Greenlaw comes back, you now have him, Warner, and Devondre Campbell.
Insane.
I mean, they have so much depth. They have more depth this year, I should say. And then Lenore has taken a huge step. It started last year, but based off the Jets game, he's building off that. And then this offensive line is better. Dominic Puny, who they drafted in the 3rd round, is an absolute stud. He was a tank against the Jets. He was blocking everything in his way, pass blocking, run blocking. I think the Niners are better this year, and they should beat the Vikings, and I think they will cover. I think they will cover.
For sure.
Wait,
Yeah.
So where's the trap?
Yeah, you kind of made it seem like it was
I think you started as a trap, and then you talked yourself
it's-
into not a trap.
No, it's a trap game because Minnesota's hard to play. They're going to be a tough out for any team this year.
Gritty team.
It's going to be tough because Brian Flores, the way that he designs his defense, it's a lot of havoc. You don't know what's going to happen. There's a lot of pressure that's going to come at you, which makes you more susceptible to turnovers within the flow of the game. So Brian Flores is just somebody that I have really a lot of respect for, and I think the Vikings' defensive personnel this year is better than last year, and their offense is good. Like Sam Darnold is going to have a really good season. He's going to play well. He's going to have some stinkers here and there, but he's going to play well for the most part. And if this is one of those good Darnold games, they do have a chance.
I think for me, this one was one of the easy picks. Not because Minnesota isn't good, not because they can't give any team a fight.
Lock of the week?
No, my lock of the week was actually Baltimore.
I'm saying today.
Oh,
against the Raiders, you're saying?
yes.
I'm saying like a touchdown favorite lock of the week.
I think it'll be a close game. I do think this game will be a close ass game, but I do think Brock Purdy doesn't fumble up in the fourth quarter like he did last season. I do think Trent Williams playing this game as opposed to not playing last game is huge. Like you mentioned, they've built depth on the defensive line that's able to, get to the quarterback that they just didn't have last year. You still have Nick Bosa, who's one of the best players in the league over there. You have Floyd, you have Collins, like you mentioned. Then they got Fred and them boys in the backfield. You still have Ward and Lenore in the secondary. So this team is loaded. And then, like you mentioned, CMC is probably not going to play, but Jordan Mason looked amazing, and I expect that to continue. Maybe not 140 or 150, however much he had, but definitely him to have a good game. And then you got Debo, who you can use in multiple facets in the run game, in a different type of schemes. And then Ayuk is going to continue to build. He didn't have training camp that much, but he's going to continue to build, get the rust off, and I think this is the game where he could have a big game. So for me, I got the Niners. I do think the Vikings put up a fight because I do think they're a sneaky team, but I think the Niners win this game.
Johnny.
I think this is going to be the inverse of when these two teams play last year Monday night. You just mentioned it, Riv. Trent Williams didn't play in that game, but also having Debo as well, who was out for that matchup last year.
True.
I think is going to make things a lot easier for Brock Purdy. And one thing I'm really excited to see is how Sam Darnold's able to build off last week was pretty damn good versus the Giants. Probably a top 4 quarterback performance. So I think that's going to be a big thing for Minnesota. If Sam Darnold goes out against San Francisco and has a big-time day, this could be a great game. But I think all things considered, I got to go with San Fran this one. And I think it'll still be a close one-score affair.
Yeah, that was my mistake. I said CMC missed that game, and I meant to say Deebo Samuel. That was that 3-game span where Deebo got injured against, if I'm not mistaken, he got hurt in that Browns game.
Yeah.
Both of them got hurt in that Browns game. So, yeah, that was my mistake. Deebo Samuel and Trent.
Oh, yeah, facts.
Jets at Titans. The Jets are minus 3.5-point favorites.
Easy bounce back.
This is a bounce back game.
Easy is strong.
I think
It's not easy. The Titans defense is awesome.
If they're who the rumors are that people think they are, this should be an easy game. This should be an easy game.
That's who you thought we was.
Oh, no, after game 1, it's done.
Now, you
Not
know,
who I thought
what's
y'all
funny?
were.
All offseason.
Because on paper, your team is amazing. But performance trumps paper.
Bro, all offseason, I was the one that was cautious about the Jets. And I'm still not saying we're going to the Super Bowl. Like I said, the Chiefs, I have picked to 3-piece since the beginning of the year. I've been cautious on the Jets. Drew.
You were so cautious. Yo, this is a double-digit smackdown in the Niners.
Oh, you're right. I was excited. It's the first game of the season. And every time I said, listen, we just got to stay healthy. We got to stay healthy. Drew's like, believe in the Jets.
Agreed.
Please believe. Please.
Because you're a fan. You should.
And then week 1, oh, yeah, they're close to the wildcard team. It was actually a compliment because I really just hope we make the playoffs this year, honestly.
That's
like,
embarrassing.
I know it's high expectations, but I hope we just make the playoffs. I want to make the playoffs.
Okay.
I'd be pretty upset if we don't win at least one playoff game.
Yeah,
but
of
let's talk
course.
about Titans Jets. Don't get another
calling it a
45-minute
rumor. That's
Jet
hilarious.
argument. Now the rumor shit would just killed me. I'm not gonna lie. Yeah, this should be a bounce back game for the Jets. I do agree though. The Titans defense is legit. This should be one of the top probably
Definitely.
10 units in the league. Caleb Williams, of course, it's your first game in the NFL. But I don't think it was just rookie jitters, week 1 jitters. I think this defense obviously had a real effect. They were destroying that Bears offensive line, constantly getting pressure. And while I do think the Jets offensive line is better than the Chicago Bears, Aaron Rodgers is nowhere near as mobile as Caleb Williams. So that could cause some issues there. But this should be a bounce back game, especially for the defense. You know, Tony Pollard had a really solid game against Chicago, but this is a game that I think we're expected the Jets to be leading, which means Will Levis and this offense can have to be passing the game.
Playing?
Yeah, probably.
Can I ask a question now? If Tony Pollard goes out there and gashes y'all, now we're legitimately having conversation about this rush defense, correct?
That's valid.
And now it's not just a San Fran, Kyle Shanahan type thing.
That's valid.
Yeah, of course. I mean, Shanahan would do it against anybody, even before he had CMC. They were one of the top rushing offenses every single year without a top running back in the league. This game is a bounce back game for our defense. Like you mentioned, Dehls, like our offense, I think, is going to have some ups and downs. They're still getting acclimated together. And with the Jets offense, what I really want to see, I want to see Tyler Conklin play better. I want him to get the ball. I want to see Mike Williams have a little bit more snaps. I think this should be a big Garrett game, even though L'Jarius Sneed probably will be covering him. This Titans defense does have the potential to finish top 10. So if our offense isn't the best against them, I'm not going to be too worried because this Titans defense, I think, will be legit all year long. It's the other side. We cannot allow, even worse than Tony Pollard, we cannot allow Will Levis to play well against us.
For sure.
We have to lock them down.
I'm more interested
100%.
in the rush defense as we stand now.
I'm looking at it. Will Levis cook shot
for
what
sure.
he just did
For
last
sure.
week. Oh, we have
That's extremely
So
true.
our defense, I think, will bounce back. I think we will win this game pretty convincingly, and then it's on to the next.
No, yeah, we talked about it last episode in between the arguing and stuff that these are going to be the bounce back games before you get to Buffalo, whether that's home. I forgot if it's home or away, but these will be the bounce back games. But you cannot afford any mishaps in between this stretch. You cannot afford to be fall off the rails. You cannot afford to not bring your A game. You have to come with force. And I agree. I think the defense. I think offensively, because you only have Garrett. And because, you have Brees and Mike Will is still getting acclimated and still getting healthier, it's going to take some time for that offense to kind of kick in. But I think defensively, you have to be on 10. Like, from every game up until Buffalo, like, you have to come out with a lot more energy, come out quarters 1 through 4 and be consistent. And we just saw Will Levis shit the bed against Chicago. You cannot allow him to have a good game. Same thing with Tony Pollard. But I think Tony Pollard is a little bit more respected than Will Levis.
For sure.
Because, he's been in the league. He's done his thing. Will is still trying to prove himself. This cannot be the bounce back game for Will Levis at all. This cannot be the game where Will Levis gets his feet back on the floor. He gets back on track. None of that. But I do have the Jets winning this game. I just think they're the better team. I think I can trust Aaron Rodgers in this situation to, keep this game manage this game, and then their defense come to play. I do think the defense will bounce back against this Titan offense. So I have the Jets.
Jets are
Make my day, John.
The Jets are home week 6
I'll make your
to
day.
Buffalo.
Okay.
I think the Jets are going to come into Tennessee, and I think this could be an actual blowout for them.
It can be. Will it?
This Titans defense looked really good last week. You guys mentioned it. Denard Wilson's done a great job. But the bigger thing for me is I think their Jets offense is going to step up. Breece Hall is a better game. And Aaron Rodgers, against that Titans pass rush, I could see being more comfortable, more confident in the pocket. And the big thing for New York is, while I'm expecting them to win big, it is a litmus test for their defensive line because Tony Pollard played a lot better last week. I'm expecting a bounce-back year for him. And Dehls has mentioned it many times over, how big is a loss of John Franklin Myers? I think we're going to see a lot of that this week.
You know, one thing with the Jets that I want to see, and I feel like we should have saw week 1, Titans versus Bears, is that Caleb missed multiple explosive plays down the field. I think throws that Aaron Rodgers is not going to miss. So this Titans defense, there are wrinkles in it because it is a Mike McDonald. He's coming from the scheme. He's coming from that tree. It still takes time to understand all the nuances of the scheme and early on to not have some mishaps in it. So I really do believe that the Jets should play well offensively, should play well. But the one concern with me always is Nathaniel Hackett, because I thought we ran the ball on early downs too often versus the Niners. We put Aaron Rodgers in third and long situations where it's obvious passing situations and the pass rush can just pull their ears back and they could go. And we can't have that. We got to protect Aaron Rodgers, and it starts with passing earlier on downs and getting on manageable down and distances. We're not in 3rd and 7. We're more 3rd and 2 because now it gives us everything in the toolbox. We can run the ball. We can pass it. We can do play action. There's just so many more things that open up. And that's why the 49ers are so hard to guard, because that's exactly what they do.
The one positive, the offensive line looked awesome. Pass blocking, it looked awesome.
So
that's a little bit of a silver lining, especially if you have to get put into those situations against a very respectable defensive line in San Francisco. But we'll see how it looks moving forward.
Seahawks at Patriots. The Seahawks are a -3.5
This
point
one
favorite.
could be trappy.
This is a trap game too. The Patriots have an elite defense, and I think every single week they're going to give their team a chance to win. Granted, their offense doesn't turn the ball over a ton, because this defense is that elite. I think this might be the best secondary in football. They don't have pressure with their front four. They only had a 22% pressure rate in week 1. But if they can blitz, and they can blitz because they trust their back end. I mean, with Christian Gonzalez, he's going to be a top end corner when he's healthy. Jonathan Jones, Marcus Jones, Kyle Duggar, Jabril Peppers. They have so many guys that can just cover and stick to their assignments like glue. And if this is one of those games where the Seahawks can't protect Geno Smith like that, George Fant is already questionable. He might not play. Abraham Lucas is on a PUP list, so you don't have a serviceable right tackle. Charles Cross did play his best game of his career week 1, and I think he's gonna break out. He's gonna be a good player this year. If the Seahawks can't protect Geno and he turns the ball over, the Patriots can win this game. This is a trap game for them. The Patriots are at home, but I think the Seahawks should win off the strength of their defense, because I think that's another great unit that could get after it.
There's a part of me that is trying not to be overly moved. I already was considering, Riv. I can't say I wasn't. Really?
I'm going New England.
Them being at home is definitely intriguing to me. And especially the way... Fuck it.
We're here. Yes.
Especially as we rode last week with the Steelers, and we looked fucking brilliant. So you know what?
Second upset of the pod.
Let's do it.
Listen, New England starting 2-0. Cool. They couldn't lose 10 straight.
Who else was an upset?
The Bills.
Bills are underdogs.
Oh, true. But that one to
Not
me
a
is
real
such
one.
a coin. Yeah, it's such a coin flip.
This one is a real upset.
Yeah.
If you go Patriots, that's
This is
real
definitely
upset.
the one we wake up, we're like, oh shit, Seattle lost. Damn.
Because when you go and you break it down, I look at Seattle's offense, and truthfully, I didn't think that it was all world outside of their rush defense. And Kenny Walker right now, if you look, coming
DMP.
into the show, he was a DMP. I looked at how great our secondary played against them. DK Metcalf got shut down by Pat Surtain. And with the way that we watched the New England Patriots and how their secondary has so much talent on it, it can be another real possibility that their performance week 1 can occur in week 2 again. And again, fantasy football, I have a lot of stock in DK. I need him to lock in. I don't know if he's going to have a great performance, truthfully. We saw Ramondre Stevenson. He was excellent versus Cincinnati. I think Seattle's rush defense will be a little bit better, of course, because Cincinnati is one of the worst rush defenses in football. And also, we didn't see the Patriots' pass offense be too prolific either. And especially with how bad their offensive line was, they were going to get pressure The opposing team is the Seahawks are going to get pressure, but I think that defense will hold up enough. I think that they'll be able to control clock and ultimately pull out a very close game, pull off the upset. I'll take the Pats here.
Kenneth Walker being questionable, possibly being out, it's definitely swaying my opinion here.
No, Zach Charbonnet love. He can't come in and play well.
Are you a Zach
compared to Kenneth
Charbonnet
Walker.
guy personally?
Charbonnet is a good player.
I don't like him personally.
Kenneth Walker clears.
Obviously, he clears, but Charbonnet is a good player.
He had a nice
He's
little-
a starter.
He had an
Is he?
Yes.
On how many teams?
We're gonna do the Gus Edwards thing again.
He's probably
Like
a starter.
4, maybe.
Zach Charbonnet or J.K. Dobbins.
JK.
Easy.
So
Jerome
so
Ford.
If
Jerome Ford. That's the
That's
one.
not close. That's not close. It's Zach Charbonnet.
Is not close.
No,
Jerome
it's not
Ford
close.
isn't a starter.
Jerome Ford is inefficient.
Well, he's the starter right
By
now.
default.
By
He
default.
isn't a starter.
Okay.
Yeah, no.
So
Zach Charbonnet would start on the Bengals.
Over Zach?
Zach Moss is pretty good.
Yes. I think Zach Charbonnet is better.
I don't know.
He got more talent.
That's a toss up.
That is a toss up.
No, I think Zach Charbonnet is really damn good.
But
I
still,
think I
we're
sleep on
talking
him.
about bottom
Yes,
of the barrel
but-
start.
So
Five teams
you
can
think
start
Jaleel McLaughlin or Zach
got
Charbonnet?
that.
Zach
far.
Charbonnet. So you
fell off.
are thinking about picking the Patriots because Kenneth Walker might not play. I think that's reasonable.
Yeah,
You
Kenneth
don't have no
Walker-
faith in the run game if Charbonnet starts.
I do get worried. Kenneth Walker was fantastic against
was
the
amazing.
Broncos. He averaged 5 a carry, 20 rushes, over 100 yards, had the touchdown. Charbonnet also had a receiving touchdown on his broken coverage. He was ended up being wide open from
That
Geno
pissed me
Smith. I'm still going to go with Seattle here, though. I'm still going to go with Seattle. I'm not going to overreact too much to week 1. And this was a Seattle team that first half was really ugly, right? Like Ryan Grubb's first time calling plays in the NFL. You could tell because they had a couple of safeties. It was 3 and outs. They were not able to get anything going. Credit to the Broncos defense, of course. But I think in the second half, you saw more what we were expecting from the Seattle's offense. But I don't think New England's crazy because when you look at this matchup, Kenneth Walker's potentially out. You have Christian Gonzalez going up against DK Metcalf. We'll see if he ends up shadowing. And now you have Tyler Lockett and JSN having to win on the corners of the New England Patriots. And I really don't know if they're going to be able to do it. Tyler Lockett had himself a solid day, but JSN really wasn't too involved. And he was out there for a majority of snaps. He ran close to 90% of the team routes, but Geno Smith just was not really looking his way, wasn't able to get a ton of separation. I still think Seattle is the more talented team. It's really tough, though, going to West Coast to East Coast, but I don't want to get my mind wrapped around in week 1 how Seattle, I think, underperformed relative to expectations when we expected them to go in, beat the Broncos kind of handily at home. And on the other hand, you had the New England Patriots who went up against the Bengals that nobody gave a shot. They had the biggest upset of week 1. So not going to overreact too much. I'll still take Seattle, but I love the upset call.
I think it's a healthy medium. I do think,
Happy medium.
happy medium. Yes, thank you. Appreciate that.
That's
I do
what you
think-
get for laughing at me earlier, dickhead.
Yeah,
By the way.
OD. We both did laugh
No,
at him
because
for
everybody
acclimated.
always
Nah,
laughs.
you laughed at me.
We did laugh.
I understand.
Everybody
We laugh.
always laughs when
We
I
do
fuck up
always
a
laugh
word.
at him.
I was
No,
waiting
we
to
do, we
see
do.
if
We do.
somebody was
That's
gonna do
facts.
it.
That's
Yeah,
facts.
so-
As soon as you
And I tried to hold myself. I tried to
and you
like.
looked at me. That's where it was my fault.
yeah,
I'll take
I caught
responsibility.
you.
No, yeah.
OD.
I tried to
corner of
not
my
do it.
eye.
I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna be the
And
bigger guy.
I know I fucked up too. I know I fucked up.
I
I
fucked
thought
up
you
3
was-
times.
Yeah, it was dumb.
It's like
It's a tongue twister.
I'm with you.
Acclimated.
I'm
is-
Acclimated.
yeah.
Acclimated. Now I can
Acclimated.
say it perfectly.
Of course.
acclimated.
Sucks.
No, probably in the moment I probably fuck up the word too. But I
word?
think acclimated.
Nice.
But I think the Patriots, they just give a perfect blend of great defense, not turning the ball over, trust in the run game,
Yeah.
play it safe. I do think New England looked great. I was about to say that word. I do think New England looked great against Cincinnati. And I think Seattle, for the most part in that Denver game, was in a dogfight, a really nasty dogfight. And a couple big play Geno, like the big Geno run was dope. Like a couple big plays. Yeah, I know it probably hurt the shit out of you. But a couple big plays from Seattle, and they were able to get the win. But even then, that win was ugly. And if in that game, Bo Nix turned the ball over like 2 to 3 times. And I don't think Jacoby is going to do that. So I think if you follow that same game plan, you play elite defense, you keep the ball safe, you trust in the run game, there's a world where New England, I believe, can take this W. And it's not even no slouch, or it's not even no bad remark on Seattle. It's just this defense is so great. You just watch them, like pretty much shut down Cincinnati's offense. I do have New England. I do think this is my upset of the week. I think you need one, and I think this will probably be the one. And I just think because this matchup, New England's defense is great. They don't turn the ball over. Their run game was pretty great. I think that'll continue. So I got New England winning this one.
I could see a lot of people wanting the Patriots to win this matchup because of how good they looked last week.
Nuts. I don't want them to win.
I maybe wanting wasn't the right word at all. It's a cold open for me.
Are people going to start being fans of the Patriots, John? Low key.
No.
I'm asking genuinely.
No, I'm not. But
They're
the
a fun
Patriots,
team.
The Patriots looked a lot more competitive than I think any of us really expected last
Agreed.
week. Ramondre looked fantastic.
Love him.
The defense is going to be really damn good. Keon White was amazing. And I could see them making this game close because the Seahawks do have a lot of injuries. Tyrell Dodson did not practice. Uchenna Nwosu's doubtful. And then, of course, there's guys all over their offense that are questionable. But at the end of the day, I still think the Seahawks offense can get better and will look a lot better and more explosive. And when a game does start to become more passing-driven, this Patriots offense does not have the juice to keep up. They beat Cincinnati last week, having 100 more rushing yards. I don't expect that to happen, even if Zach Charbonnet does play, because I like him a good bit. So I've got the Seahawks winning, but I could see some people wanting to see the Patriots or expecting the Patriots to make this a more competitive game.
The Patriots already upset the Bengals, so I think from now on they're always kind of like an upset watch type of team, depending on the matchup. And they do match up well with the Seahawks. This team really becomes dangerous when Drake May starts to start.
For sure.
That's when. Because he is able to create explosive plays with his arm in a way that Jacoby Brissett is just not able to do. And when he does start, I am going to be tuning into the Patriots because they're going to play some great football. They
I'm excited.
are.
And they're home.
And that's why this year I predicted the Patriots to finish 5-12, not a crazy good record. And people were like, where are the 5 wins coming from? But their defense can keep them in almost every single game. I think if the Seahawks just tackle well, they will beat them, though. Because when you look at how the Bengals lost, yards before contact, Ramondre just had 0.1. He just had 4 to 5 yards after contact. He was breaking tackles left and right. Lou Anarumo said that the Bengals missed 14 to 15 tackles against the New England Patriots. And based off all the reports that I've gotten from the Seahawks and how Mike McDonald has handled his practices in training camp, they have played a physical style defense and they have practiced really hard to where they're a good tackling team. And if they can just tackle well and not allow Ramondre to get those yards after contact, I think their defensive line could push the Patriots offensive line, and that's how they can win this game because they just won't generate enough chunk gains.
I was saying this, and listen, without Belichick, no Brady. No one hates the Patriots or has any reason to really hate the Patriots right now. So honestly, I want to see them do well and succeed, especially with the rookie head coach and Gerard Mayo. Jacoby Brissett has been a journeyman, but obviously he's a pro's pro. And when Drake May steps in there, now things really get exciting. They've got some nice young pieces on this squad, an amazing defense. So it's definitely one that I'm keeping an eye on for sure. And I think they're going to beat Seattle this week.
And people don't talk about it enough, but their uniforms, I think,
Beautiful.
are one of the best in the league.
New England does have some really nice
beautiful.
uniforms, for sure.
The all blue ones with the silver helmet.
And agreed. And then on the opposite, the white uniform with the blue and the red is amazing.
It's just like a classic look.
For sure.
Browns at Jaguars. Jaguars are minus 3-point favorites.
-3? Oh, yes.
Yes.
I thought you said 0.3. I'm sorry.
I just don't know how you can pick the Browns. I'll be honest. I think the Jaguars defense, they really showed a lot against the Dolphins week 1.
They did.
And the Browns offense is still lifeless. I think that's the major question is can the Browns offense, can the Browns offense have some life to it? Deshaun Watson recently there was another allegation thrown his way. He played poorly again. I do, and this is not me sympathizing with Deshaun Watson at all because I will never feel bad for Deshaun Watson. His father passed away last week.
You can feel bad for that.
Yes.
No
You're
human
a good
being.
human, you should.
Yeah, of course. We can feel bad for him losing his father. That's okay.
Everything else, though, no.
Yes, I know, but it's just
I
feeling bad
understand
for
what
the
you mean.
person. Yes.
I understand what you mean, the sentiment, but we can still feel bad that he lost his father. And
When taking all that into account and what Deshaun Watson has dealt with in the past week with something like that's so emotional.
Correct.
And then also have another allegation. I mean, I can very much see how he cannot be in the right frame of mind to just play football if he wasn't playing at a high level anyway. And now he just is not doing anything right. He's not seeing the field at all. And even with the Browns having this great of a defense, until Nick Chubb gets back, I don't think the Browns can have any sort of good offense because they can't run the ball. Their tackles are unhealthy, and Deshaun can't throw it at all. The flip side is that the Jaguars, this game, Tyson Campbell is doubtful. He's probably not going to play. And Cam Robinson also got injured in practice today, and that's a huge loss for their offensive line. This is going to be an ugly back-and-forth game, but I'm going to go with the team whose offense I can trust a little bit, and their defense I can trust, and that's the Jaguars.
my issue with that, And I have the Jaguars winning this game, but even as I'm thinking here and I'm sitting, the offense with the Jaguars really didn't look that great. In the first half, yeah, they were moving the ball. Trevor Lawrence, I think that the stat line aside, of course, I think he played a pretty solid football game, looked very accurate, made some nice solid throws. The run game, I look at Tanks Bigsby, especially in his limited opportunity. I think that he was pretty efficient. Brian Thomas was one of my guys coming into the season. He had himself a very solid ball game. Even still, that offensive line scares me and it concerns me, especially no Cam Robinson. I see and I respect the defensive line of the Cleveland Browns. I know that Cleveland offense is untrustworthy, and that's very fair, but I watched them be untrustworthy last season and still win games, like a matchup versus the Jaguars, who aren't this end-all, be-all type team. And I'm not saying you're saying that, of course. I'm just kind of speaking freely. There's a way that the Cleveland Browns can win this game, and that's by getting pressure on Trevor Lawrence and really making it difficult for him to stay in the pocket and then force him into making some tough decisions. But with all that being said, you have to trust the Jaguars a little bit more right now because that offense looked catastrophically bad. And although Dallas's defense showed out and really did perform at a super high level, it was so bad to the point where I still look at how well Jaguars played against a really good offense in Miami and think that that performance can be replicated again. So I'll take the more trustworthy Jaguars, even though I use that very loosely.
Yeah, I think, listen, I'm not changing any opinion on Deshaun Watson, but I do think this could be a potential bounce back game for him. And not in the sense that he's going to go out there and throw 300 yards, but just look better than he did week one. Because you mentioned it, Drew. That Dallas defense, it's a really good unit. It was a great unit last season. They had one of the highest pressure rates this past week. Now, it's going to be interesting to see these pressure rates change as the year goes on, right? Because we have the Cowboys that won the highest going up against Deshaun Watson. Of course, they have a solid pass rush. I don't think that's going to change drastically. Then you have the Jaguars who have won the lowest. But as I mentioned, we talked about the Bills game. Miami's offense is get the ball out quick. It's hard to pressure when you're getting the ball out in less than 2.5 seconds. So this is going to be real litmus test for both of these teams, right? Agreed. Is this Browns offensive line going to struggle mightily all season like we saw them struggle against Cleveland? But Deshaun also doesn't help the offensive line out. We know that he's going to sit back there, hold the ball for 3 seconds, run around. He's going to get pressured. He's going to take sacks. But what you guys said, it's the same mindset as me. I can't trust this Browns offense right now. How bad it looked, how bad Deshaun Watson looked, even though I think this Jaguars defense is an easier matchup for sure than what they just went up against the Dallas Cowboys. I need to see it first because I don't trust this passing game right now. I don't trust this run game to be consistent. I know the Browns defense is going to show up, even though they're up 30 points to Dallas. It's going to be similar to what we've seen, I think, in years past with the Jets, where the defense is really damn good, but if the offense is constantly keeping the defense on the field, constantly going 3 and out, you're constantly in bad field position, it's a lot easier to all of a sudden let up 24 points, 27 points instead of 17 points or 14 points. And overall, your defense just doesn't stay as fresh, doesn't look as elite just because time of possession, you're out there for 35, 40 minutes sometimes. So I think going forward, I'm interested to see how Deshaun plays against not top-end defenses, not top-end players like Micah Parsons and DeMarcus Lawrence. But I got Jacksonville in this game at home bouncing back.
You got the Browns, Rev?
No, I have Jacksonville. I'm picking Jacksonville. They got to show me.
Are you fading the Browns until they figure it out?
Until Deshaun Watson sits down.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And you got to think, like, this offensive line is banged up. Conklin is still questionable. I'm looking at it now. Batonio, if I'm saying.
Sure,
yeah, Batonio.
He's still questionable. Cool. And Joku is not playing.
Yeah, he's
so for him, that's
a couple weeks.
That's a safety blanket for Deshaun Watson. Who he didn't even really hit him too much, but that's a safety blanket.
What does it say about Jerry Jeudy? Is he questionable? He got banged up in that game.
He is.
Damn, they have a laundry list of injuries.
Yeah, you're seeing me scrolling.
Oh, D.
Right? Yeah, I don't see him, but
maybe
Willis
today?
is questionable too. The other offensive lineman, and then for Jacksonville, it's really just none of these guys are important.
Tyson Campbell and Ken Robinson.
Yeah, that's Campbell, Robinson. That's it. And I think Jaguars.
Jeudy Praxton full, so he should
play. It's weird because I thought the Jaguars' offense was fine, and it felt like they just completely stopped putting the ball in Trevor Lawrence's hands and letting him go to work, which I thought he played. He's one of those guys where his stats look funny, but if you watched it, he plays a great game, and I thought he played a great game. If they don't do that, I think you can trust their offense as opposed to Cleveland, it's like their quarterback, you just can't trust him at all. He doesn't help the run game, doesn't help his offensive line, doesn't help the defense. And if he continues to put them in positions like this, it's hard to really bet against this team. I think this group is elite, defensively. I think they have a nice little offensive group in Amari Cooper and Judy and Njoku. I think we're in the offensive line. It's healthy. It's really good. But Deshaun Watson has to bring me back. He has to put me back on the sail and at least show me you can be the 18th best quarterback. He can't even be the 25th best quarterback at the moment. So for me, I think, like I mentioned, I trust Jaguars offense, at least for a half, to remain consistent, be good. I just don't see how Cleveland can put consistent points on the board. So I am taking Jacksonville in this matchup.
Johnny.
John, wake up.
Who do we got?
Please.
I was looking at the injury report there. I think this game is a total toss-up for both sides, but what I'm going to lean with is Jacksonville because, as you guys mentioned, the quarterback play is something I can trust way more. With Cleveland, I feel like the biggest takeaway was when Deshaun Watson's putting the ball in harm's way, it becomes a really hard team to bet on. And I feel like for this Jaguars defense, it's only going to get better as the year goes on with a new defensive coordinator. And I could see their pass rush getting to Deshaun consistently. And more importantly, I'm expecting their running game to be a lot better. It looked pretty good, Tank Bigsby last week. I'm expecting ETN to play a little bit better. And overall, I just trust the Jaguars a whole lot more. And that's who I'm going to be rolling with.
John, we're a Tank Bigsby podcast, bro.
I'm not, but he looked better last week than last year.
I'm excited to see Brian Thomas' second game, too.
Two notables for this game I was looking at. Tyson Campbell is doubtful. I think that's very important to note. And as Riv mentioned, no David Njoku. I think that could be a huge loss for their passing game because that is their second best passing option for sure.
Wake up, John. I don't want to call your name every time you got to go. Please, wake up.
When I stop talking, you go. You're right behind me, brother. I know you're not used to that, but lock in. Okay?
Do you want to be behind him?
I understand he's used to probably being ahead of a man like me, but listen, we're here. You're behind me today, bro.
I don't know. What you told him outside the other day made it sound like you wanted to be behind him.
No. I didn't want to air you out, but Lord have mercy, he might be right.
Next game, Saints at Cowboys. Cowboys are 6.5-point favorites.
Who you go with?
Vegas doesn't believe in Saints.
Two teams that had blowout performances. The Cowboys are at home. This is an easy game to pick.
Agreed.
I think the Saints will show a fight, though. And
I was going to say, if there's a game to move us.
Yes, this would be the one.
Right here.
I just want to see how the Saints offense looks against a great elite level defense. Will this offense have some success? They don't have to be great. They don't have to throw for 400 yards, 300 yards. No, just move the ball. Don't look like you looked last year. And this is the game, even if they lose, that now I'm even more on the Saints. I'm in on the Saints already. I think they will be the team to win the NFC South. But this will be a game to now put everybody on notice that, listen, it wasn't just because we played the Panthers. We also got one against the Cowboys, and the Cowboys got to handle business. As simple as that.
What I'm really looking forward to is seeing how this offensive line performs against Dallas because of how awesome the offensive line performed against the Panthers. And I say that because coming in, that was one of the biggest concerns with the New Orleans Saints was their offensive line because you do have Ramczyk on the IR. Penning was a disaster last season. You did bring in Fuaga. He is questionable for this game. I just don't know if we see that level of performance from the offensive line versus Dallas. And I'm being transparent. No. I'm fully anticipating Dallas to have a field day against that. Really make Derek Carr feel uncomfortable. But again, like I mentioned to start, this is a moment for the Saints to move us. If you go out there and make this a competitive, respectable game, especially against Dallas at home, who Dallas is amazing at home, if you go out there and you really push them to their limits, and even if you lose in a respectable fashion, I'll take note and I'll start to adjust accordingly. I think their defense will play relatively well, but I don't know if that offense performs even half as well as it performed against the Panthers. I'm taking Dallas here, not really thinking twice about it. But again, there can be some movement, but I don't see it happening.
You know what sucks? I was so out on the Saints.
And now he loves them.
Then these motherfuckers go out here and lead the league in motion week one. And now I feel like I'm pulling out hard.
He's a Kellen Moore guy.
He's a motion merchant.
For the Eagles, he loved it.
Motion.
For the Saints,
I love play action. I love when you make things easy for your offense and your quarterback. It blows my mind when we see some teams like last season, the Eagles and the Saints, are just running motion at like 30% of the time. And then you look up, it's really easy. Go pull the stats of what teams run motion the most. It is the best offenses in football. Why don't we replicate that? But shout out to Clint Kubiak, who week one did that at the highest rate in the NFL, 88%, or maybe Rams were one higher, but whatever.
It
Top
was
two,
88%.
they were number one. they moved me. The offensive system. This is the thing. The result of beating the Panthers, I don't really care. We all expected them to beat the Panthers. Maybe not all of us. Four to five of us expect them to beat the Panthers.
Smart guys.
But it's the process of you made life easy for Derek Carr, and the offense looked explosive. Rashid Shaheed had a big game. Alvin Kamara was efficient on the ground. Chris Olave wasn't even really involved.
No.
And he's by far and away their best wide receiver. I'm still picking, of course, Dallas to win this game. They're just a notch above New Orleans right now. But this is a big test, right? Because these next few games, both for the Saints and for Atlanta, you have a real gauntlet these next 2, 3, 4 weeks for both of these teams. If either of them can escape and be like 2-2, really whoever avoids going like 0-2 and 0-3, and all of a sudden you're starting really behind the 8 ball. Of course, Atlanta's already 1 game back now because they lost to Pittsburgh week 1. But this is going to be a real tough stretch for both teams. I still think Dallas wins this game, but I don't think the Saints are going to look pedestrian. I think they're going to be able to move the ball, but of course, I don't know if they're going to have the same level of success, especially negating the pass rush of the Cowboys.
Yeah, for the Saints, I feel like everybody's gonna have the Cowboys. You know, Dallas at home, different type of team than when they are on the road. Although we did see them whip Cleveland's ass, but Dallas at home, they just get this extra boosted, energy, and they play just at a higher rate than they usually play on the road. I think for the Saints, for me, I do have Dallas. I think it's just about how competitive can you keep this game. Like you mentioned, how can the offense look? Will it be consistently be able to, get drives? Will it score the ball? Can the run game move? Can we get guys in motion? Can we create a consistent, efficient offense? If we can do that, then the Saints team definitely can, change my tune. And then defensively, I think they'll be great no matter what. I think this defense does have the talent. For Dallas, though, Dallas can really walk in there and destroy them because we've seen this Dallas team do that to a shit ton of teams. So really for the Saints, in my mind, it's just about not getting blown out and making it a competitive game. If they could do that, then I'll definitely I'll see a slight vision of what the Saints are looking like. But I do have Dallas. I do think they're the better team. They are a tier above. And the way this pass rush looks, it looks amazing. Dak and CD still look great. And I think this offense is going to be able to move the ball at a high rate. So I got Dallas.
I've also got the Cowboys in this game. It's hard to go up against them when last week their defense looked really impressive. Now, I think on the flip side, the Saints offense definitely did step up. Rashid Shaheed had a huge day. But I guess what it really does come down to for me is that I think Micah Parsons and company are going to generate a lot of pressure. And Tyler Zufaga, who played great last week, isn't going to have the same amount of success to keep Derek Carr comfortable within the pocket. So I'm going to roll Dallas here. But I will admit, I say it with the Patriots, I'll say it now with the Saints. These are two teams I definitely underrated because purely on paper, they look like shitty teams. But the Saints coaching really did put a lot of things together. And another big factor is, of course, when you start to project young guys like Fuaga playing quite well, it does change the dynamic a little bit. But I've got the Cowboys, and I'm pretty comfortable with that. That is my lock of the week.
He had the camera up like 15 seconds before you were done talking. He was ready.
Oh, to be fair, I don't know necessarily if someone starts to slowly stop.
No,
I may
I
think
also
he's
thought
going
Rip was
to
about to
stop.
stop. I saw him
And
pull
I
it
know
up,
it's
and I
not the
wanted
only
Rip
one.
to keep going and going.
I would have just kept it. I would have said fuck it. But honestly, a lot of the time when that happens,
Got it. Take your face off the
I
camera
just
now.
do what I try my best.
Yeah. Bye.
John, there's 3 scenes there. You can also put yourself in full screen when you want to talk as well. They're not going to be able to block Micah Parsons at all. It doesn't matter. Trevor Penning's not going to be able to block DeMarcus Lawrence. It's really about what is Clint Kubiak's answer to helping protect Derek Carr. That's it. Are you going to put a line? Are you going to put a tight end there to help block? What are the answers against pressure? Because last year the Saints didn't have many.
And we'll see. Also, we saw the offense utilize the tight ends a lot. We saw Foster get involved. We saw Juwan get into the end zone as well. So it'd be interesting to see how they do that, especially when it comes to blocking, chipping off the edge. So it's going to be an interesting game.
Next game, Rams at Cardinals. The Cardinals are favored. They're at home.
That shocked me.
1.5 point favorites.
Puka's not playing.
With the Rams, Steven
IR.
Avila is on IR. Puka Nacua is on IR. Rob Havenstein is also questionable. Kevin Dotson is questionable. Kobe Durant is questionable. And for the Cardinals, Jonah Williams was on IR with a knee injury. So who do you guys got? I mean, Riv, you're a Cardinals guy. Do you think that Kyler Murray pulls out this win? Does Marvin Harrison have a good game after not being involved last week? Who are you going with?
Can I also give some stats about how bad Marvin was?
He wasn't bad.
No. He was in the 5th percentile separation score, 1,710 of 1,798. He was second percentile in max speed, 1,699 of 1,730.
I saw. Yeah, I was gonna say that same thing.
Yo,
He's slow.
this gave me a stomach ache.
What's weird is they have GPS tracking in college. He hit like 23 miles an hour in GPS in college, and now you saw the one route.
Of course I did.
The
And he
fucking
dropped
hitch.
the ball.
I don't know, man. I'm not freaking out yet about it, but first game, like what the you know what I mean? This is a guy that's week one we were expecting to go out there.
It drops down the hype significantly.
It definitely
even
does.
off week one, whatever, not overreacting. But when you look at the explosiveness Malik Neighbors has, when you look at the explosiveness Brian Thomas has, not only does he have Marvin Harrison's size, he has more explosiveness. It's not as much of a lock as we thought it was that Harrison would just be by far and away the best guy.
I didn't like Kyler Murray's comments. What he said.
Very weird.
And it was very, very odd. Like, it's not my job to get him the ball. You are the one throwing the ball. I'm very confused at what you're saying. I've never heard that by a quarterback. Maybe I missed somebody saying that. But that's just very odd for a guy who mainly controls the whole offense saying that it's not my job to throw a guy the ball. You know, it's really weird. Definitely threw me off a little bit. I definitely feel like they weren't on the same page against Buffalo. You know, I definitely felt like Marvin had he thought he was open. If you watch the tape, he was open a few times. Nobody's disagreeing with that. But Kyler also was dealing with some situations. The offensive line was breaking down. You know, he had a couple pressures. We know Kyler Murray struggles with the middle because he is a little bit
smaller
short.
guy.
Yeah, he's a smaller guy. So, you know, no shame in his game. But I don't know. This is a weird one. Arizona being favored, I guess, because they're home. I thought the Rams looked amazing against Detroit, especially for where everybody had Detroit. You know, everybody had Detroit as a top 4 team. We thought the Rams defense, how were they going to be able to step up? I thought they made some big-time plays against the Detroit Lions, and that's a high-powered offense. I thought offensively they were able to move the ball at a crisp rate, and I thought Matthew Stafford is still one of them dudes. For me, I got the Rams because I just think this Rams defense is going to be able to make more plays. You know, you got Kobe Turner on that defensive line, who I think is really good. And then you got the offense in the Rams, which I don't think Arizona's going to be able to stop them at all. You know, I saw this offense run up and down Detroit. I think this offense can do a lot worse than what that Arizona defense can give you. So for me, I got the Rams. I think Staffy, if Staffy's playing, Cooper's playing, they're healthy, Kyron's playing, I'm good with those 3 guys going in and beating Arizona.
And I'm glad you mentioned Kyron because Kyron's going to have the biggest game of all of them.
Do we all have the Rams here?
I do have the Rams.
Okay.
I do.
Of course, I've got the Rams as well. All right. These are 2 very similar teams. What's up, Dehls? You can see him. Dehls, can you ask if I can hear you? In the sense that these are offensively driven teams, and the Rams lost a lot defensively, linebacker, corner, defensive tackle, of course, with Aaron Donald. But I think in a vacuum, when you look at the Rams headed to Arizona, I'm going to put my money on their offense, generating more explosive plays and putting up more points. They should have had a chance to win last week. The fact they didn't get the ball back in overtime because they gave up a touchdown is a rule that I absolutely hate. But all things considered, the Rams will not start off 0-2. They're going to get a win on the road. And more importantly, I think the Cardinals, they're going to do a little bit of soul searching. Can I agree, Riv? Those comments that Kyler had were a terrible look. I defend him all the time, but that was just something that really did turn me off after last week's game.
Sure that we all heard it correct because a lot of it, you know, we read and, you know, a lot of the times we don't go and look up the full clip. I feel like I learned my lesson when Justin Fields came out there and said something a little while ago, but I listened to it and it's as bad as it reads. It's straight up. You know, sometimes you go through your reads and it's not my job to I'm just like, what do you mean that you go through your reads and you miss them and it's not your job to get him the ball? He's like, so yeah, I leave that to Drew. Sometimes Drew tells me that it's okay and I just leave that to Drew. I'm just like, dude.
I get what he's saying, but also like the answer should have been me and Drew got to find a way to get Marvin the ball. So you just spend a top 4 pick on him. He's by far and away your number 1 weapon. Like, because obviously offensive systems, offensive schemes, it's like, this is your first read. You're going to read left to right. You're going to read this. If the safety goes this way, like it's not just like Marvin's number 1 every play. That's just not how offenses work, right? It's going to change depending on what the defense shows you. But shit, Aaron Rodgers had Devontae Adams for how many years? He was the first read majority of the time, right? Amon-Ra St. Brown last year for the Detroit Lions. There's some weapons there, but he was the first read a majority of the time. When you have a guy that should be an elite dude, you scheme the offense around him. So the answer, he's not wrong, but he should have just worded it differently to be like, yeah, we got to figure out a way to get him the ball.
I don't know. I kind of felt like Kyler Murray's comments were indefensible. I know what he was saying. Like, Marvin Harrison Jr. is not always the first read on the play. Drew Petzing is drawing up this play, and this is where he wants to go. At the same time, you're the first overall pick. You are the franchise quarterback of this team. You're making the most money on this team. You're not just a one-read merchant. At least you're not supposed to be.
Whoever's open,
If
throw the
you
ball.
see a broken defensive play and a receiver is wide open, I don't give a damn if it's Marvin Harrison or Greg Dortch. It doesn't matter who it is. You got to throw in the ball. And that's as simple as that. For him to say that, I think outed his offensive coordinator, because now it makes Drew Petzing look bad for not designing things up for Marvin Harrison when he simply just missed Marvin. And it's as simple as that. We all saw him wide, naked, butt open. He was open. He was open. That was a touchdown. And in a game that the Cardinals lost by less than 7 points, that could be a potential game-changing play. He's the first overall pick, and this doesn't help his leadership allegations. It doesn't help his contract clause with watching film allegations. It doesn't help any of that when he goes out there and he says things like that.
What do we got next?
I just want to share this one stat. Cardinals had a 3% pressure rate against the Bills.
Yeah, they were terrible.
Yeah,
Holy shit.
Arizona legitimately does not have any good defensive talent.
That's why it was so weird that
all.
game was
Yeah.
the way it was.
So we all got the Rams here. Bengals at Chiefs. The Chiefs are 5.5-point favorites. I also think we're all going to go
We all have
Chiefs
the
We're all in the Chiefs.
unless we have something different.
I already
John?
told you. I vow every week. Kansas City Chiefs.
Does John have
No, I don't hate the Bengals, but I'm realistic about the Bengals. I'm going with Kansas City in this matchup, but do you guys want me to give my take before y'all's? Okay. Okay, you don't need my take. At the end of the day, Joe Burrow's got to step up earlier in the season, and I also do worry about that Bengals rushing attack. I want to see them just get more explosiveness because that's something they struggled with the last couple of years, but all things considered, I'm not really going to bet against Kansas City at any point this year. Drew and I both.
We don't have to go around and have takes, but
No.
just what are our expectations for Joe Burrow?
How about, can the Bengals cover this spread? It's a 6-point spread.
What is Joe Burrow going to do?
I think Joe Burrow bounces back. I mean,
Okay.
in the interview after practice today, he said that he knows he was bad in the pocket.
They asked him about the water bottle thing too.
Yeah, they did. And
Rightfully so, though.
early in
I
the
didn't love
season-
that clip.
No, it wasn't. And the doctor posted it, and he mentioned, like, Joe Burrow's wrist is fine. He made a lot of high-level throws that were 20-plus yards down the field. He made 2. I'm not going to say a lot. He made 2. That
Sorry,
showed me
bro.
his wrist is fine. I think his wrist is fine until something else happens. I'm not going to be concerned. Joe Burrow said it himself. He was jittery in the pocket. He felt pressure that wasn't there. And that has happened early in the season before. I think this being Kansas City, this being one of the best teams in the NFL, what's going to be tested the most is the Bengals secondary, because the Chiefs don't have a great rush offense, and I think the Bengals will go out and tackle better after having an embarrassed tackling performance against the Patriots. So what's going to get tested is their secondary. I do think this offense will bounce back. I think Jamar Chase, now having food poisoning and a stomach virus, will play much better. And I'm expecting a big game from Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase. I think both of them are going to play really well.
Also, Isaiah Pacheco, although he didn't look the greatest against the Ravens, I think he has himself a bounce back week, of course, going up against Cincinnati. I think that's really going to be where the Chiefs really try to make their bread and butter, is essentially going off of Pacheco. They definitely can, but of course, Mahomes, when he needs to make a play, he definitely will do that. But I'm not thinking too much about this one. I watched a pretty piss poor performance by Cincinnati against a pretty average team in New England with a great defense, but offensively, although they did have their moments of stopping them, the Ramondre Stevenson running all over them and the lack of discipline, I would say, by not being able to tackle him, that is cause for concern. So I'm expecting the Chiefs to cover, and it can lead with it can still be with Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase playing well, but sometimes that's not enough.
Buccaneers at Lions. Lions are 7.5-point favorites. I think this is going to be a high-scoring game.
I think it'll be fun.
And the Lions,
Fringe trap.
It is. The Lions just have a defense that I trust more to get more consistent stops. I think Baker Mayfield and the Bucs offense do have a pretty good game, because we saw the Lions secondary versus the Rams. They weren't able to cover. And it's Mike Evans against a young secondary. Chris Godwin, Jalen McMillan got involved as well. And I am a very big believer in Liam Cohen. But the Buccaneers, Antoine Winfield is doubtful. He might not play. They also lost Bryce Hall, who was a starting corner, former Jet, who played well, but he was just buried in all the depth that we had.
Season-ended injury.
Yeah, he's out. Zion McCullum, he's out as well. He might not play. I think the Buccaneers defense is just too weak to keep up. I think this is going to be a high-scoring game, but one that they lose because their defense won't be able to get enough stops.
Feel exactly the same way. I think that we will see Tampa Bay's offense perform at a high level, similarly to how they performed against Washington, and similarly how the Rams performed against the Lions on Sunday Night Football. What it comes down to is, I think the Detroit Lions offense is simply better than what Tampa Bay can go out there and produce. And Tampa Bay's defense, particularly their secondary, I did watch Jaden Daniels have himself a pretty solid performance considering it was his debut as a rookie. So I take that into consideration. I expect the Lions to play better than they did on Sunday night. Regardless, whenever those two teams match up, when it's the Rams and the Lions, I'm anticipating a banger. But the Lions are going to be the better team. And I believe it will not be without a result of Tampa Bay playing well, but the Lions ultimately will pull the W out.
I got Detroit too. One stat that was interesting, shout out to Jacob Gibbs, who I just found him this year. If you want some football insight, if you're into fantasy or just regular football, Jacob Gibbs on Twitter gives you basically every stat you could look at. Defense, offense, offensive line. He's been fantastic this first week. Carlton Davis against the Rams was not good. Yep. He allowed a catch on 9 of 13 targets in week 1, a league high 114 yards. He primarily covers the right side of the field. Mike Evans, most of the time, or at least this past week, was on the left side 59% of the time, which means Jalen McMillan, who you mentioned, Joel, had a touchdown. There's also another opportunity. He could have scored another touchdown. So a guy that was not a highly touted prospect, but someone who was drafted on day 3, I believe, coming out of Washington, who had a prolific offense, could be in for a big game. But yeah, Detroit's just too good. I'm really interested to see. Jameson Williams had a huge breakout game, right? And this is his first year, fully healthy, no suspension, no BS going on. I'm really interested to see how this offense operates with him being like a legit weapon, because what we've seen over the last couple of years is Amon-Ra is the clear number one. He is going to lead this team in targets by a long shot. The game plan outside of the run game, the passing game is designed around him. Then last year, Sam Laporta comes in. He has an historic rookie season. He's one of the best tight ends in the NFL. Now you add Jameson Williams, who is this explosive, deep threat type of guy. Is he going to be someone who, like last week, got like 8 or 9 targets? Or is he going to be someone more week to week, is in like that 3 to 5 target range, but is constantly putting pressure deep down the field? Yeah, I think a better version of Gabe Davis, but yeah, like someone that could put pressure on the secondary.
Please don't mention his name with Jameson.
In terms of role. Has Jameson ever had a 20-yard playoff game?
True.
No one asks. Oh no, there's been like a few players, but he's one of them.
I'm just saying role. Yeah. Not like just,
he did go 200.
I don't know if anyone had 204. A few had 200.
I'll be honest. Gabe moved the world with that game.
He should have. That was a crazy game. I had Detroit in this one. I think when you're a team just as good as Detroit, I understand trap games make sense, but I think this is a game. You're Detroit. You should win this game. But I'm looking at the secondary for Detroit. I don't know if I fully believe in this secondary just yet. You know, I know they made some moves in the offseason. They drafted Teron Arnold, if I'm not mistaken. They picked up Carlton Davis. This is another test. You got Mike Davis. You got Mike Davis.
Evans.
You got Mike Evans. You got Chris Godwin. Baker Mayfield had himself a game last week.
Jalen McMillan could have had 2.
Jalen's dope. So I'm really interested to see it. And Brian Branch, I think he's their best player in the secondary, in my opinion. Because I just think he's their most impactful big play type of guy. But I'm interested to see how the secondary looks. So I do think Detroit, kind of similar to Philly, kind of have that weakness in the secondary because they're young, they're fresh, and they have their one vets in Carlton Davis, big play Slay, and then you got the rookies, Quinyon, Terrion Arnold, and then the young players and whatnot. So I'm interested to see Detroit's secondary, how they perform in this matchup. But I do have Detroit.
I've also got the Lions in this matchup. For me, what it comes down to is the Buccaneers do have a couple of key injuries on the defense side of the ball. Antoine Winfield's doubtful, expect to be out 3 to 4 weeks here with a foot and ankle injury suffered from last week. Kalijah Kancey did not practice, while on the other side, Penei Sewell does not have an injury designation moving into this matchup. So I've got the Lions taking this divisional round rematch from last year.
Chargers at Panthers. Surprisingly, this is only a 5.5 point spread. The Chargers are favored. I think this is the big J.K. Dobbins game. I think this is big Ladd McConkey game. I don't know how the Panthers are going to generate any pressure because Joe Alt and Rashawn Slater are probably the best tackle duo in the NFL. Derek Brown is now out for the year for the Panthers. Like, maybe part of me is like, oh, the Panthers just got their butts whooped. So will they be able to take that loss and now bounce back in some type of way? But no, they just have one of the worst quarterbacks I've ever seen. I think like the Panthers situation is not good, but Bryce Young is contributing to the problem as well. Like all the strengths that he was supposed to have in college, he is just not. It's not translating at all. The pocket movement, the way he's throwing, he doesn't have anything set. I think this is a Chargers pretty easily.
Me too.
I'm very excited to watch J.K. Dobbins go to work. This is my lock of the week. When we're doing our Survivor pool, spoiler for anyone that watches the show that's in the pool, I'm choosing the Chargers. I can't trust the Panthers, not even a little bit. That team just showed me that they can be and put out one of the worst performances and be one of the worst performers in the National Football League like we saw last season. And they were supposed to get better and did not. So I watched the Chargers put together a very impressive performance versus the Raiders. Although maybe not the cleanest, rushing-wise, definitely they stuck to what they wanted to do, and it worked out in their favor. They were able to dominate a matchup where the passing offense wasn't really relevant, and that's kind of what we anticipated. But again, not too moved by the Raiders, not too moved by the Panthers. A really good start for their schedule. Yep. But again, you got to handle the light work while it's there for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Got the Chargers, of course. The Panthers, man, it's going to be hard to find a win in their schedule. I don't know if there's going to be a single week this year that we're going to go into a matchup and pick the Panthers outside of something catastrophic happening to the opposite team where they just lose their starting quarterback, offensive line, defensive line, corners, and their head coach is out with like COVID or something. Other than that, I can't see a world where we're going to be picking the Panthers at all this season. I really don't have much to say about the Panthers, man. It's difficult because coming into this year, I think there was the little hope you had about Bryce Young was also tied to Dave Canales and him being a quote-unquote quarterback whisperer. And in week one, he didn't look like that. Deontay Johnson, who was their big acquisition, was not involved. The run game was atrocious. And then you saw Baker Mayfield, who went out against the Commanders' defense. Didn't look like he was missing Dave Canales at all, right? So, of course, the Chargers, I think, are going to win this game. I agree, though. I'm really excited to see what J.K. Dobbins, what he looks like, maybe a larger workload as well. He was by far and away, I think, to everybody, the better running back between him and Gus Edwards. So, yeah, the Chargers should win this one. It's on the road, but the Panthers are they're a mess right now.
I thought it went Riv. My bad. Got you. So I'm not going to lie. Last week was absolutely brutal because it was deja vu all over again for Carolina. I'm not going to break it down. I'm not going to spend too much time on it because the Panthers don't deserve that much time. But look, I also had the Chargers losing to the Raiders last week too, and they looked a lot better. J.K. Dobbins accelerated way more than I could have expected. I think, agree with all of you, he needs more than 12 touches. They should be feeding him almost 15 to 18 in this matchup, and it can only really go up from here for Carolina. I mean, I at least hope so because it was absolutely brutal. They couldn't pick up a blitz, and they couldn't get any sort of rhythm going. Maybe this week is where they're able to keep within 2 scores. What? Well, I got 11. I had the Jets losing, even though I picked them to win. So I really should be 11-5. Well, I said on the show 49ers. I said I clear. So
No, we're not really feeling
that is Mickey Mouse.
Hey, listen, John, you have to pick the right team. You got 10 wins.
Come on,
got 10 wins.
If you do fuck it up, it's got to be pre-game starting. Be like, yo, it's Monday 7:00. Yo, I messed up. I meant to put the 9. I'm like, all right.
No, once games lock in on Thursday, it's quiet.
Let me ask y'all something. If I'll tell you, listen, guys, I'm really thinking about putting this bet in. I'm thinking about putting my money on this team, and I tell you what the team is, and then I go to the betting app, and then I click on the other team, and I put my money and I lose. Do I get that win?
Reach out. You think customer support's going to be like, oh, we got you. No worries.
Talking about. John, next time, pick the right teams, all right?
Shit, wow.
Colts at Packers. The Colts are 3-point favorites in this game. Jordan Love has not been ruled out just yet.
I did see that.
I do think that he's probably not going to play, though.
Yeah.
It's going to be very hard for him to play. I just don't trust it at all, and I think it's in the Packers' best interest if they sit him out for at least a week or two. So not this Sunday. Part of me feels like the Packers can win this game with defense. Yeah, part of me feels that way. I think
with their defense, you're saying?
Yes. The one thing that's scaring me with this matchup is that the Colts, Anthony Richardson is just such a big play waiting to happen, and the Packers are going to live in man coverage this year, which means there's such a small margin for error if Michael Pittman maybe gets a step on Jair Alexander or A.D. Mitchell or Alec Pierce on one of these corners.
Don't let it go.
And now you're giving up an explosive play. And I also don't know how good this run defense is just yet. I thought they actually played the run fits very well, but Saquon there were moments where he just made nothing into something. That's just what Saquon Barkley does. That's how good he is. And Jonathan
laughed at.
Jonathan
You didn't get laughed
just
at.
week one.
Oh, well.
Just week one. All right, just week one. He's
Against
also a
your
good
packs.
3 tutties.
That's tough.
The field conditions, man.
Oh, my
They was
God.
slipping.
Matter for him
They
too.
was
I was
slipping.
going to say, first touch. First
fine.
touch, Giants
Saquon
Twitter
had
was
to
having a
switch his
field day.
shoes in the mid-game. What are we doing? 3 tutties.
I'm taking the Colts. Are you taking the Colts?
I'm taking the Packers. I'm going to give this defense this week to
Impress you.
show me what they can do. Because
that.
the field conditions in Philadelphia, I thought they actually played a pretty good defensive game, all things considered. There was just some moments where they gave up big-time plays, like the one to A.J. Brown. But for the most part, I thought they had some moments. Some slipping was definitely in play there. I just trust this secondary. If they don't play so aggressive and they play back and they are saying, Anthony Richardson, you have to beat us by being accurate in the short areas. That's how you got to beat us. I don't know if Richardson right now can do that.
No, he is ass in the short and intermediate. Shout out to AR. I'm gonna keep
70
it
yards down the field, though. He's going to knock you.
You need a 65-yarder. He got you. It's on the money. It's clean. But them short, intermediate, 15, 20s, he's like, I'm trying, but it's not getting there yet. And listen, I got the Colts. I don't know what you're talking about, but that's I know I get it. You like Green Bay's defense. I really liked what I seen from the Colts last week. I really loved the fact that they have big-time explosive plays. They're exciting. I love AR in the run game along with JT. He really is like a baby Josh Allen in the sense where he can give you that big play and then he can get you running on the ground. And I love this. I love how aggressive this defense does play. They do make big plays. Their secondary was solid last week against that trio in Houston, but I thought their front four really played really well and caused some havoc for CJ Stroud. If Malik Willis plays, I can see the same thing for the Colts. That front four really making Malik Willis turn the ball over, just make bad decisions, bad passes. And then on the opposite side, we watched the Philadelphia Eagles. And granted, the field wasn't good, but we watched the Philadelphia Eagles make some big time plays. With A.J. Brown, the 70-yard bomb, Saquon with the little wheel route, whatever that was. I think for the Colts, because of the fact that Green Bay plays so aggressive, that could be a cause for concern. They could have a couple broken plays. You could watch A.D. Mitchell, Michael Pittman Jr., Alec Pierce have some big-time plays. And we saw the Colts. All they need is about 4 or 5 big-time plays, get some going, get some on the scoreboard. So for me, I got the Colts in this one. I just think they'll have enough offensively to get it going.
You're chilling.
I did go out of order.
That fucked John up.
He was full screen. He was right.
He was full screen.
You should just let him go.
My bad, John. You know what, John? Go ahead.
I've got Indianapolis. Look, Malik Willis is an unplayable backup, and I feel like for the Colts, pass rush looked really good getting home to CJ Stroud last week. I don't think I'd pick the Packers to win one time if Jordan Love's not on the field.
Right. Listen, that's really what it comes down to for me. If I see Malik Willis on the team, I'm sorry, I'm picking the opposite squad. Especially when Indianapolis took Houston, honestly, to their limit. And it took a insane catch from Nico Collins and a great throw too. I don't want to slight CJ. That was a perfect ball that only Nico could get it. And Nico making a special play to essentially wrap up that game. But the Colts fought. And a game that I really didn't give them much chance. They went out there and they fought and they pushed a fringe contender in Houston, although I still only see 2 contenders, but of course to the masses, people really love what Houston can do, and that's fair. They have an amazing roster, talent up and down, both offense and defense, but you look at the Indianapolis Colts in this offense, if the Packers do decide to play ultra aggressive on them, AR is going to go out there and he's going to sling it. If we see AR refine a little bit more, similarly to how we saw him miss A.D. Mitchell on a couple of plays that would have led to big-time touchdowns, A.D. Mitchell was one of the best he was the best separator, actually, this past weekend. And if the two of them can get on the same page, and if AR can just refine his throwing just a little bit against the Green Bay Packers, I think this offense will just do enough to get past what I don't expect the Green Bay Packers to do on the offensive side of the ball.
Malik Willis is bad, bro. He's really, really bad. He's really bad. I respect you. Go Pack, go. Those are your boys. I don't know.
I'll be happy if they win.
I don't know if there's any defense that can really
amazing.
overcome Malik Willis at quarterback. I got the Colts in this game. I don't even think Anthony Richardson, he's going to have big explosive plays. I'm not expecting him to be like accurate all of a sudden.
Yeah.
Like, I don't even know shit. He's probably going to complete like 50% of his passes. Maybe it's a good game. He gets like 57%, but he's going to be super explosive through the air. He's going to be super explosive on the ground. I think Jonathan Taylor has a bit more of an efficient game too,
sure.
but it's really difficult for me. Like John said, if Malik Willis is starting, if they play the Panthers on the schedule next week, couple weeks.
I don't
maybe
think
them, but
the Colts defense is all that. Juju Brents is now out for the
no,
year.
I don't think it's that good either.
Yeah.
Malik Willis is really bad.
No, I know, but if Matt LaFleur can just design where you just go to this one read, this the read, and you just throw
He might
it,
not get
I think
there.
Malik can do fine. If you run the ball, design shot plays under center, under play action, and Malik Willis throws 18 times, I think there's a way the Packers can win.
How many of those would be interceptions?
I think he can have a clean game as long as Matt LaFleur makes it easy for him. This game is not a Malik Willis game. This game for me is a Packers defense and a Packers rushing offense game. And Malik Willis does have legs, so you can run read option with him. There is some more that opens up that you could do to maybe get first downs. But this game is about the Packers showing me the support that they have around their quarterback and winning the game like this.
I don't disagree. There's going to be 3rd and 8s. There's going to be at the goal line on 3rd down. There's going to be situations in the 4th quarter if it's close. I mean, Vegas is still expecting this to be a close game that Malik Willis is going to have to make a throw. And I like Matt LaFleur, of course. We all do. The supporting cast, we're all very high on. But it's just those situations. And listen, you can make the argument Anthony Richardson's going to be put in those situations too. And we know he's not the most accurate. But it's those high leverage moments that Malik Willis can't rely on the defense, can't rely on Josh Jacobs, has to go out there and really make a play. And that's where I
There's a
struggle
world
to
where
see where they can
this
do it.
defense can show up and Malik Willis still cost him the game.
That's true. Can I also ask, is this the first time where there's a legitimate comparison of a player to Josh Allen?
Like legit
AR?
bar for bar?
Yes.
Yeah, I think so.
I look at his skill set, and obviously it's just so similar.
He
And
definitely
also
reminds me
just
of
the trajectory of how AR can go about his career. Year one, although it was only 3 1/4 games, even if that, because he did get banged up in one of them also. Very inaccurate, but damn it, is he a playmaker and has a cannon for an arm. So far, game 1, cannon for an arm, big play after big play, goes and can extend plays, but that accuracy is horrendous at times. Josh Allen had a similar mantra. Year 3 cleaned it up. I really don't know if we've kind of given that Josh Allen label mostly because of players that it took them longer to develop. But stylistically, on top of development, AR really might be the closest we'll see to a Josh Allen type of player.
Next game, Raiders at Ravens. Ravens are 8.5-point favorites. We all got the Ravens.
They're covering.
Do we
Easy.
have to talk about this much, or we want to move on
I
to
do
the next
think
game?
Ain't no
Max
Connell break?
Crosby bounce back game.
Okay.
Destroys the Baltimore offensive line, but Baltimore wins.
Does Aiden O'Connell make an appearance?
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
I don't think so. Giants at Commanders. Commanders are 1.5-point
This is like a funny
favorites.
50-50.
This is the game. This is one of the tough games that I was
This-
I'm
looking
picking
at.
whatever everybody else picks.
What I spoke early on in the show, and that's real. I respect that.
He's protect. No, you got to go first.
I can change my pick,
Bob,
though.
he's trying to protect himself.
Yeah, I swear I am. This one is tough.
I made a vow to not choose the Giants the rest of the season.
But it's so
Mother
Washington.
of God, this is the one where I regret saying that statement. But you know what? I made a vow. I'm standing on it. Even though I don't know how good the Commanders are going to look against the Giants defense, I don't know if Jaden Daniels looks that same level of explosive that he looked against the Buccaneers. And even still, it didn't result into that many points. He did have 2 rushing touchdowns, but they were nowhere near close to winning that Buccaneers game. So even with that, I look at this Washington Commanders defense. It is still not good. The Giants offense is bad. Daniel Jones is bad. He can have a good game against this secondary. That's how terrible the Commanders defense is. I'm expecting Malik Neighbors to really show out. He led all rookies in receiving yards in week 1. He has a chance to do it again here because of how poor this Commanders secondary is. I feel like because I made the vow, I want to take the Commanders, but I can see the Giants winning this game because the defense can make it difficult on Jaden. And I think that the Giants offense can do enough. I'm taking the Giants.
Whatever I sent, I just sent my thing. So whatever I picked on that is what I'm gonna go with. Because I don't even remember.
Okay.
In the app, I have Washington.
What did I pick?
but I can't. I think that the defense is going to be simply
the
too
Giants.
much for Jaden.
You picked the Giants.
So I'm not gonna. I have the Giants in this one. Let me make something up. Their defensive line. Is
Let me
gonna,
make something up.
Their defensive line is gonna show out. They're gonna do their thing. I think Daniel Jones will be able to moderately move the ball with Malik Neighbors. I don't think this Commanders defense is good at by any means.
It's bad.
Yeah, it's but both these teams. I think the Giants have a better defense. The Giants have a respect. The Giants have a better defense. So because the Giants have a better defense, and
Giants
both these
defense
teams,
is bad.
Yeah, it would be like one of maybe they'll finish 20th or something.
yes, but the
They
Washington
won't finish
Commanders
in the
will
top 20. They won't finish 19 or up.
Did they
No.
play bad against the Vikings?
Outside of
You
Dexter
said?
Sam Darnold
Lawrence?
started off 12 for 12.
Outside of
But it
Dexter-
wasn't like he was like
Drew.
downfield ripper, downfield
Drew, outside
ripper.
of Dexter Lawrence, it was pretty gruesome.
Also,
Kayvon Thibodeau's a bust.
it may get to a point where I concede that also.
That's why I'm picking the Giants.
He's
He
not
was
good.
terrible
He's
against.
really bad.
He was
One
terrible
pressure,
against the
was it?
Vikings.
Did you see what he said after the
No.
game, though?
I watched
What'd he say?
every single passing
Bullshit.
snap.
Yeah.
It was bad. He had maybe
He-
one or two moments
he
where I
just
was like,
didn't
good,
take
good
he-
move.
He just didn't take accountability.
And that's the thing with Kayvon Thibodeau, the sacks that he got last year were a lot of them were free sacks, like over half of them. And he wasn't a real 10-sack guy. He
think we
was
looked at it on the
last
show
year.
one time.
Last
We
year,
did, for sure.
His pass rush win rates,
was like 2.
the pressures, he was near the bottom of the league.
Stop.
This is all I got to say about Kayvon Thibodeau. A team like the New York Giants, I'm not saying they ran wonderfully. You know, I'm not a big fan of Joe Shannon and the moves that he's made.
He's bad too.
But if you believe that Kayvon Thibodeau is good and he's an ascending player, you don't go out and trade for Brian Burns. That's just not something you do. If Kayvon Thibodeau was truly a stud, they would have been fine with just having him and Lawrence on that defensive line. The fact that they had no confidence in him, that's the reason they got Brian Burns. Man, this game is going to be tough to predict. Daniel Jones historically has played well against
Yes.
Washington. Man, but would it be so cool if this was just Jaden Daniels' breakout game, coming out party, just slinging balls down the field against a weak secondary, giving McLaurin
Respect Tay
chances.
Banks.
Listen, Terry McLaurin, if he gets the ball and it actually moves around, Cliff Kingsbury
I was
is
gonna
just
mention
not
that.
innovative at all.
That's
He did
a
the
fact.
same shit with D-Hop.
Terry stayed in that one spot almost the entire game. And if Tay Banks is going to line up opposite of him, of course Terry can get his inevitably. However, Tay is still a great corner. And that'll be a very tough, especially if they're just going to put him in that same spot every single play. Tay is too good to kind of disrespect him in that manner.
But the truth about this game is that the Commanders are going to be one of the worst teams in the NFL.
They both are.
They don't have much weaponry on offense. Their offensive line is not that good. Their defense, their defensive line has been decimated with the trade Chase Young and the Montez Sweat trade. Like, they still have like two good players, Deron Payne and Jonathan Allen, but outside of that, they don't really have nothing going for them. I like Frankie Louvu. They try to make some moves in free agency,
Hello,
but
Bobby.
they just weren't enough. And Bobby's he's still a tackling machine. He's
Yeah.
going to tackle everybody, but he's not good in coverage. And the secondary, they can't guard anybody. I think this is a good Daniel Jones game, but most importantly, I think this is one of those Dexter Lawrence games that he just takes over and he wreaks havoc on the Commanders' defensive line. And Jaden Daniels has never seen somebody like Dexter Lawrence, who's 6'4", 340, and can just knock down your center. I think this is more of a Dexter Lawrence defensive line of the Giants game than it is a Daniel Jones game, but I could see either or.
I also saw
you
your
picking?
I'm picking the Giants.
Oh.
I also saw your tweet. Best D tackle in football.
Yeah, no, he's better than
That's
Chris
real.
Jones because
That's
I think
real.
Dexter Lawrence is a better run stopper than Chris Jones.
is.
Chris Jones last year dropped off, and I think a lot of it had to do with the contract dispute and just saving himself for the playoffs. But it's just Dexter Lawrence is 6'4", 340, and he has all of those pass rushing moves in his arsenal. I think he's the best. He's younger too, and that's really what it comes down to. I think 2 years ago when the Chiefs faced the Eagles in Super Bowl 2022, that was the year I thought Chris Jones was the best defensive player in football. And I thought he should have won Defensive Player of the Year. But, Aaron Donald, I think, won it that year, if I'm not mistaken. And it's well-deserved for him, too.
There's no world I could take the Giants back-to-back weeks. I think it's a coin flip.
Coin flip.
Flip coin.
Fair.
I think it's a coin flip this game, but I got no words
Horse in
to
the
say
race.
why. It's just I'm not picking the Giants back-to-back weeks. Commanders win.
And you're taking?
The Giants.
I'm the only one that
I
Commanders.
whatever I typed in there is what I'm going to go
All right. Fair.
Steelers at Broncos. The Steelers are 2.5-point
We're all
favorites.
going Pittsburgh.
Broncos at home opener. There's the Bo Nix bounce back game. Do they do something?
The thing is with the Steelers,
No, there's no folding
they
game.
could win any game because it's going to be ugly, and they can lose any game because it's going to be ugly. They scored 6 field goals against Atlanta. They did not
I
get
don't
in the
think
end
Denver
zone.
scores.
I think they're going to
Wow.
struggle to score. I'm picking Pittsburgh to win. I think they win this
No,
game.
zero's a stretch. More
But
like
this
6.
is I don't think this is a game that like Pittsburgh dominates
This is
by any
definitely a
means.
16-6 game.
They'll dominate us
16-6.
on defense.
This is
No, yeah, I think
they're
you'll
gonna
struggle to move the ball,
dominate
but
us.
I don't think it's going to be more like a
scored,
touchdown game.
10?
Bro, our offensive line was not good against Seattle. I can only imagine
I'd
how
be
it's about to
shocked if
look
Denver hits
versus
double digits.
the Steelers.
But then again, I could also see Justin Fields taking some bad sacks.
Hey.
I think
could
our
see them winning.
defense is going to play well.
I think they will. I think the one advantage the Steelers have is
TJ Watt.
I think they'll be able to run the ball on offense. I think this is either a Najee Harris or Jalen Warren big game. I hope it's Jalen Warren because I got a lot of stock in Jalen Warren. But I think they should be able to run the ball. I mean, Kenneth Walker with a bad Seahawks offensive line was able to have 100 yards rushing. So I do think if it's Jalen Warren, he's able to break off a couple of those runs that Najee can't. And I think that's how the Steelers move the ball. And you just have Justin Fields make an occasional play down the field just to get you into scoring position.
Highest graded deep throw last week.
But it's just going to be really hard for the Broncos to score. But if they do win this game or they keep it close, it'll be an impressive showing from Bo Nix. And they need a way better version of him to have a chance in this
Bo
game.
Nix Steelers-esque.
If
to
Bo
beat
Nix
Atlanta,
plays well.
to the Broncos.
If Bo Nix plays well,
You're back?
oh my God, like we never left. I'm not anticipating, but damn it, I'm rooting for it. I want to see it so fucking badly, especially with how he looked pretty damn good on that last drive. He had the one throw to Josh Reynolds.
Respect it.
He had that last drive.
We were talking about drives with Zach. Remember the last drive with
It's
against the
rookie
Steelers?
season. I'm allowed.
No,
It's the
yeah,
rookie
for sure.
season. I'm
You're
allowed.
allowed to pick and choose
That's
this quarter,
it.
this drive
Agreed.
for sure.
He had
Absolutely.
a lot of bad
Absolutely.
moments. I won't disagree, but our offensive line was shit.
Man.
Shane?
Rookie quarterbacks?
Bro.
No, it's blind hope and faith with
23,
rookie quarterbacks.
24.
No, he's old. He's old.
like a 5
but
years
but
quarterback.
Riv, level with me. Our
Zach
offensive
was like 21.
Can you level with me? Our offensive line played terrible.
Your
Our
team is not
weapons
good.
are terrible.
Yes.
Are they
He
going to be better
didn't-
this week? Either of those
No.
things.
Pittsburgh
But
is literally
my point being
another
is,
defense.
which is why I say, if he goes out there and plays well,
Okay.
we got to get back on the ship.
Got it. We is crazy, but you can definitely do it.
No, I mean me, but like I'm saying Joel because you know how he is with Bo Nix.
He's not coming back, I don't think. Ever.
One game and that's it. Bust.
The didn't look good. I mean,
He was back.
when you have
But that
five-
last drive
He looked
and that
terrible.
one throw to Josh Reynolds.
He was terrible.
That throw to Josh Reynolds was damn near
Was he
sex.
terrible for 40 minutes out of the 45? in
when
the
you
game?
have 5 near
Yo,
interceptions in a
yeah,
game,
yeah.
I mean, it's just putrid. Arif Hassan, I believe, kind of gave a counterpoint to advanced stats to a Broncos fan I was defending Bo Nix, because if you look at the average separation that he had from his wide receivers, it was one of the lowest in week 1. But that stat, it doesn't take into account if the wide receivers separated at a high level. It takes into account what the separation is when the throw gets to the receiver. So if Bo Nix throws a bad ball and the receiver has to adjust to it, therefore removing some of that separation, that goes into that stat. So it's not simply all a wide receiver stat. It's also a Bo Nix being late to the throw and
His
throwing
timing
a
was
bad
bad.
ball stat.
His timing was bad for sure.
Yeah, I mean, they don't have elite separators by any means. Like Cortland Sutton, outside that, I don't think there's a single receiver that defenses are gonna respect. But shit, man, like sometimes you could tell, like Trevor Lawrence, for example, you mentioned it, Riv. He's better than his numbers, right? There's some guys that when you watch them play, they are better than what they are actually either perceived, what their numbers tell you. There's other times, like I'm not putting them in the same category,
Come on, man.
like Bryce Young,
Oh,
Bo
Jesus.
Nix, where it's like the situation's bad, but they're not elevating anything around here.
Can he really elevate Josh Reynolds?
Deontay Johnson. Yeah.
Josh Reynolds was so decent for Detroit
He
last
was.
year.
I
was so
felt.
decent.
I knew when I said it that I was going to get that response. Honestly,
Well, let's
But
see
also
if he can
Marvin-
elevate Greg Dulcich, because
Marvin-
that's what I'm looking for.
Marvin Mims got almost no burn at wide receiver. Sean Payton hates him.
Troy Franklin didn't play much either.
He
right?
didn't. I don't know if he was in a healthy or
stretch.
yeah, facts.
Maybe I'm just complaining a little bit too much about this because I think this should have been the primetime game. Sunday Night Football is Bears at Texans. Texans are 6.5-point favorites. I understand Caleb and CJ Stroud, But when we have Mahomes and Burrow in that same slate,
For sure.
it's kind of a no-brainer that should be the primetime game.
But also,
whatever.
If Caleb would have went out there week 1 and would have looked like the Caleb we're
Yep.
expecting, they win by 10 points. Now we're going to a Sunday Night Football matchup with like the 2 hottest young quarterbacks in the league. It's just week 1, he goes out there and shits the bed.
Keenan Allen's questionable. Roma Dunze is questionable.
I don't think Rome's gonna
Dalton
play.
Schultz is questionable. Those are the 3 main guys. I mean, I think this is pretty easily the Texans.
Yeah, I think we're all in Texans.
Like until we see Caleb have one of those games, I don't know.
Oh, you said I thought you were.
Oh, we know where I'm going. This is no brainer for me.
So what are you rooting for here? Just I forgot you're off the Bears.
No, I'm not. No, I'm not. No. I am rooting for a DJ Moore masterclass
Because he didn't look great last week.
and a CJ Stroud masterclass. Yes, we see that
Shootout.
going off. And a Texans win. Yeah, that's what I'm voting for.
I just need to see this man play better than he did last week. That's really all I care about.
He could do that. I think he will do that.
I think he will do it as
should.
well. But I
If
think
it's worse, oh god.
No, nothing can be worse than that. Like he can only go up from here.
Let me also say this. I want to see the Bears defense perform how it performed in that second half versus the Titans. I know this is
It's a different lifestyle.
night and day
man.
difference between the Titans
Yeah.
and the Houston Texans offense. But again, if you
real
go out there
quarterback.
and you force
Billy's on the Chargers?
CJ into making some bad decisions, the rare bad decisions, and he turns the ball over a time or two, which he didn't do almost at all last season. Now we start to become even more. Stop being lazy.
It's
I was
it's a
gonna do.
reach around.
I didn't want to be rude. I want to let him talk, and I want to listen to what he's saying.
This is a first.
That shocked me. And thank you. I don't know if I believe it,
Because
but
you were
thank
rude
you.
for doing that.
Yeah, that was kind of rude.
It was a
No.
whisper.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Riv. Actually, you know
Like
what?
you guys
what
don't
the
fucking
fuck, bro?
chit chat all the time when someone else is talking.
He got us.
Jesus.
He got us.
I gotta get it. He's cooking.
But I want to see what the Bears defense is made of against a really good offense. However, doesn't matter to me. I'm still going to be taking the Texans in this one. They're simply too talented on offense and defense. And right now, you got to know that there's a little bit of growing pain with Caleb Williams. Can he have a bounce back game? For sure. But this Houston Texans defense is not a slouch, and they can still make it difficult on him.
Absolutely. I'm interested to see how Joe Mixon looks in his
True.
his second game because 30 carries tied his career high. And like, listen, Joe Mixon was always like solid in Cincinnati, right? But he really didn't look like what he just looked like week 1. Like he looked explosive, he looked elusive, he looked like the best Joe Mixon, like arguably I have really seen over these last few seasons. He's just been such a workhorse in Cincy. He's gotten 1,000 yards, he's gotten big touchdowns. He's been used in the receiving game. But how does he look after a 30 carry game? Does he have that same sort of pop and explosiveness? But other than that, I'm expecting Houston to win this game. It's in Houston too. Right,
It is.
I believe yes. Houston should win this game. Of course, we're looking at Caleb. What does he look like? And also, if Rome is out, if Keenan's out, how does this offense get distributed now? Because we saw only 10 carries for DeAndre Swift. Again, they were losing first half of this game, so you got to pass more. Wasn't efficient, only 30 yards. And one of the the concerns, not concerns, but just when you add Keenan and Rome Odunze, was that due to DJ Moore? And what we saw in the first game was he wasn't really. Number one, wasn't targeted as much. Keenan Allen led his team in targets, and when he did get those targets, he wasn't able to really create explosive plays. So he's going into this game as really the only healthy wide receiver, and potentially there's a chance he's the only wide receiver out there out of the big 3. So with him as the number 1 option on offense, can you get him going like you did last year with Justin Fields?
This could have been a movie. CJ, Tank, Diggs, Nico versus Caleb, Keenan, Rome, DJ. I'm aggravated as shit. This could have been a movie, man.
Hopefully, we get at least one of Keenan Allen in a row.
Just one in there.
I think Keenan Allen's probably the most likely to play. Roma Dunze, it sounded more like he was
said week to week for
leaning
him.
towards not playing. The way I feel about this game, not that we can watch it like on the broadcast version, but just the wide receiver battle between the Texans and the Bears secondary with Jalen Johnson, Tyreek Stevenson, and Kyler Gordon. I think that's going to be amazing. I feel like the Bears have more to lose if they come out flat in this game. The Texans, we understand what they're going to be, and I do think that after week 1, where the Colts they had a chance against them, they put up a ton of points on a limited amount of throws, but that's just Anthony Richardson for you. I think there is a concern with the secondary of the Texans, and if the Bears have a great offensive passing performance, that's something you look at with the Texans and say, that secondary is not good enough to hold up against the real top teams in the AFC. I also feel like with the Bears, they may have won week 1, but it was a terrible Caleb performance, and everybody knows that they didn't win because of Caleb, even though he didn't cost them the game either. So they didn't win. They didn't win because of him, but they didn't lose because of him. He didn't cost them the game at all.
He put him in the hole.
Yeah, he did.
Didn't make it better for the Bears.
Yes, he did like convert some first downs with his legs and
Nah, the
stuff.
fourth
But yeah,
was cool.
he wasn't good.
In the fourth, he was cool.
Yeah, for the most part, he just wasn't good. If the Bears come out flat offensively in this game on a primetime stage, there's going to be a lot of conversation about Caleb Williams and if he was anointed way too soon, and if our expectations for the Bears should change a little bit, because a lot of people had them. I mean, I think I even had them making the playoffs as one of my last wild card teams. Actually, no, they were just out because I forgot about the Lions.
Yeah.
So if the Lions were in, they wouldn't have made it. But yes, but now we're talking about, I mean, if Sam Darnold plays well for the Vikings this entire season, the Vikings can be better than the Bears this year if you get a better Sam
be a
Darnold
disappointment
season
for sure.
than Caleb's season. So I think not that this the end all be all game, but their offense has to show some life, and Caleb has to play much better than he did in week 1.
People overreact to Caleb playing bad in his rookie season, but gave Trevor Lawrence all the grace in the world. That's going to be super interesting.
Not the same
was
situation.
worse.
Yeah.
No.
Fair point,
Yeah.
and I'll be
His
quiet.
coach was,
And I'll be quiet.
Yeah.
I apologize. That is super, super fair.
I think
'cause-
Caleb will still get a lot of grace. Like, I think even if Caleb goes out there, shits the bed, if Caleb struggles for 8 weeks, I still think even if he struggles his whole rookie year, which I think eventually this shit will get figured out, we're going to go into year 2, be like, listen, I understand the rookie year, but it's just one season. He's getting acclimated to these new weapons. If he has a bad year, I'm sure it's a whole new coaching staff. So a lot of things would change. I don't think if he has one bad season, we're not looking at him like Bryce
sure.
Young coming into this year.
Yeah, and even if he is up and down his rookie year, it might be the best case scenario for the Bears moving forward, because
Get
I
Shane
don't
Waldron
think
out of there.
I don't think Matt Eberflus or Shane Waldron are like the coaching staff that you want to rely on.
I like Eberflus.
I think he's good. I
As
think
a
he's a
defensive
defensive
coach,
coordinator.
for sure.
Yes, he's
a
good.
new offensive coordinator.
But if Caleb has an up and down season, now the Bears would fire them. You know, if he had a great season, I guess it wouldn't matter much. But that coaching staff would stay, and I think just that coaching staff would eventually wear out, where you have a chance to pair
we
Caleb with a great offensive mind.
We almost made it. We
Hey,
only have, like,
listen,
5
I
minutes
didn't
left.
get the remote
I
today.
thought the remote was up there. I was like,
We were very
Imagine
close.
Joel's pictures go back up there again. Woo! It's gonna be fucking Ant
There's a lot
Edwards
of.
doing
I
something
was going to
crazy.
say Braun Breaker was there
It's gonna
too.
be Ant Edwards shirtless.
Man, I delete my pictures, and I don't know why they save to my drive each time after I delete them. Falcons at Eagles. Eagles are 6.5 point favorites.
I'm assuming we're all taking the Eagles.
Yes.
There's only one person who could maybe go other way because of an
You
agenda
don't believe in the
against
Eagles,
them.
Riff?
Real.
Is that you?
However, what I want more than anything,
the most believable, unbelievable person.
or what I want to see more than anything else, is how this Atlanta Falcons offense looks against the Eagles defense. We spoke about this yesterday when we dropped our last
gonna
episode.
lock Drake up.
Is he?
Yeah.
He didn't. Did Quinion lock up against the
He was
Packers?
guarding like 4 different dudes. So
I guess that's fair.
Christian Watson didn't catch a pass on him.
Who'd he score the touchdown on?
That was on. Might have been Slay. I hope it's not Quinn. I hope I'm capping.
If the Falcons win this game, I'll eat my words. But
I'd be fucking pissed.
I
if we
think that
lost.
they're gonna put themselves in a pretty big hole when they lose against the Eagles, and
Kirk
then,
hasn't beat us in like 3-4 years.
and then they
It's in
lose
Philly, right?
against the Chiefs next week. Kirk Cousins last year played at an MVP level, and the Vikings started off 1-4. They started 0-3 to start the year, and within those 5 games, he had 13 touchdowns to 4 interceptions. He was playing really well, and that's with a better play caller. That's with a better supporting cast, I think, offensively.
Facts, baby
And that's
Metro.
also with a better defensive coordinator in Brian Flores and probably better defensive personnel, because the Falcons might have some of the top names like AJ Terrell and, Justin Simmons and Jesse Bates, but they don't have any pass rush, and they generated almost 0 pass rush against the Steelers, whose offensive line is not very good. Zach Frazier was the standout, and he played great, the rookie center out of West Virginia. But the Steelers' offensive line, their tackles, that was questionable in the preseason. I think the Falcons got hyped up. I even fell into it when Kirk Cousins signed there. But I just don't think this is a complete team at all. And I think Bryce Huff is going to have his statement game. Like, this is why the Eagles signed me. I think Bryce Huff is going to have a major, big-time game. Definitely is going to record a sack. Jalen Carter is going to get up in the pocket as well. I just don't see the Falcons changing up their game plan from what we saw week 1 to now Monday Night Football so drastically and overnight. I don't think it's going to happen.
Yeah, this is probably number 1 or number 2 games I'm most anticipating.
For
right,
sure.
I think Bills Dolphins is probably number 1 if not number 2, and this game is right up there with it because I think you have real questions on both sides. If it's the same offense we saw week 1 with Kirk Cousins, where there's no play action, it's all pistol, it's all shotgun, it's very predictable what you're doing out of pistol and shotgun. Kirk Cousins does not look comfortable. It's a whole different discussion we're having with Atlanta. And I know I said it on the overreactions. Michael Penix's got to get ready because you cannot have a quarterback out there who can't be under center, who can't run play action. You're just going to limit your offense too much. And, well, listen, is Atlanta the most complete team in the league? No, but this is a winnable division. This is in the easier conference. This is a team where if you have competent quarterback play, once you get past this first 3 or 4 weeks, you could string together some wins and you could sneak into the playoffs. So you shouldn't just more or less give up on the season because, oh, we have to play Kirk because we gave him this $100 million, $200 million contract. He has all this guaranteed money. Go out there and try to win games. And then for Philly, I think you're looking at a couple things. Number 1, on the offensive side of the ball, Jalen Hurts limiting the turnovers, right? He had a couple real boneheaded decisions, I think, in week 1. A lot of turnover-worthy plays, a lot of things he's got to clean up on. And then defensively, can you clean up really that rush defense I'm looking for? You did a really good job in the first quarter, first half against Josh Jacobs, but that second half he got going. If we just look at just the second half numbers, he was averaging like 7 to carry. He was crazy. He was really unstoppable. I thought the holes were opening up on the defense, on the offensive line. They were creating holes for Jacobs. He was breaking tackles. He looked explosive, but Philly wasn't really doing anything to help the case. Now you're going up against another team in Bijan Robinson, who this is a team that wants to run the ball and they want to I thought they wanted to play action, but they want to pass off of him, right? They want this to be a Bijan-led offense, even though they gave Kirk so much damn money. So questions on both sides, but number 1, if Kirk don't look like that dude, if he doesn't look healthy, I think it's completely valid to more or less write off the Falcons of being a true threat in the NFC.
I already gave my answer.
Let me ask y'all something. I'll ask you, Riv. If the Eagles lose this game, why do you think they would lose it?
Hurts, too turnover prone, and defense completely flops out. I think that would be the main thing. I think for Philly, they have to come out and they want to smoke Atlanta. I think, going back to last year, you started 10-1, 11-0, something. I forgot what the exact number was. And like you mentioned, there's a lot of close games. You start off this year. Green Bay's a tough matchup. You win in close games. I think you want to start putting your foot on your necks with these NFC teams. I think it starts with Atlanta. I feel like Atlanta is a tier below you in terms of just talent, like just raw talent. And then for this defense, you want this defense to come up and have a pretty consistent performance. You want them to get to the quarterback. You want the secondary to continue to improve week by week. But from this offense, I don't see, as long as the offensive play calling keeps Smitty moving, keeps A.J. Brown moving, have Smitty in the slot, we have Saquon Barkley. I really don't see this offense struggling too much, especially against this Atlanta defense. It's really, I'm locked in solely on the defensive side for the Philly. Do not let Kirk Cousins have a bounce-back game on you. I know he played well against us last year for the most part, but like you mentioned before, that was with Jettas, Jordan Addison, T.J. Hawkinson.
And
he does
pre-tearing your Achilles.
Yeah, he does not have none of that. Not even close. And I think the Eagles' defense did get marginally better from last year. So I expect the blowout. I want a blowout, and I think the Eagles are capable of that. But, I got them winning.
The thing I hated the most from last year is whenever a lot of us had similar picks with the pick'ems, they're just like, oh man, none of you are picking the upsets. Oh man, this is so predictable. I'm like, what the fuck? We want to get it wrong? Like, what the hell?
Let's say we had a couple of picks that were a little bit different.
This one is mostly the same.
Yeah,
I think
that's
this one is mostly the same.
But honestly, look at these games. It's hard to talk yourself into
Exactly.
like the Saints beating the Cowboys. You know what I mean? Like it's tough. The Raiders beating the Ravens. Like there's some games that and there's gonna be times we're gonna be wrong. Like we all picked Bengals last week, and fucking New England goes out there and beats
Giants,
them.
right?
Yeah, but I'm not gonna mess my pick'em record for the.
I need that belt.
Hey, we took the Giants. We took the Rams. You took the Commanders, which I respect. Me and Riv took the Patriots. You guys all took the Bills. That's a little bit of difference.
I feel like it's probably similar to
Miami,
week 1.
Buffalo, it'd be the same kind of pick.
I'm not trying to mess with my pick'em record for like the Raiders versus the Ravens.
Exactly.
You know?
That
Going
happen?
crazy. We can recap our picks. Week 2 NFL predictions going game by game. Buffalo at Miami.
Going with Bills Mafia. Got the Bills.
I'm taking Miami in this one at home. Think that the offense, I trust it a little bit more. I'm going with Miami.
Give me the Bills.
The Bills are 4-1 against the Dolphins in their last 5 matchups. Josh Allen plays at an MVP level. Give me the Bills. 49ers at the Vikings.
Give me Brock Purdy. I'm taking the Niners, man.
Taking the Niners. Taking the spread also.
Niners win comfortably.
I'm going with the 49ers. New York Jets versus the Tennessee Titans.
I'll go with the Jets. Bounce back.
They got to bounce back. They got to show us something, especially against the Titans. I'm going with the Jets.
Defense bounces back in a big way. Aaron Rodgers has himself a cute 250 and 2 touchdowns.
I agree with Dehls. Smart man. I'm going with the Jets. Seattle Seahawks versus the New England Patriots.
This is my upset of the week. Give me New England.
This is our upset of the week. I'm taking New England as well.
I don't hate the upset call, but I think Seattle wins on the road.
Give me Geno Smithian. Give me that defense that caused so much pressure against the Broncos. I got the Seattle Seahawks. The Cleveland Browns versus the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Unfortunately, I have to go with the Jaguars this week.
I almost talked myself into taking Cleveland, but then again, I remembered Deshaun Watson's the quarterback. I'm taking the Jaguars.
CTD. Can't trust Deshaun. Give me the Jags.
I'm going with the Jaguars too. The New Orleans Saints versus the Dallas Cowboys.
This could be where we realize the Saints are Panthers merchants. I'm taking Dallas.
Give me CeeDee Lamb and the Dallas Cowboys.
Dallas win big at home.
Give me the Cowboys. The Saints are going to turn some heads with how close they keep this game.
Interesting.
For the majority of it, though. The Rams versus the Cardinals.
I'll take the Rams.
I'm taking Ramley.
Kind of weird the Cardinals are favored. Vegas knows something we don't, maybe. Give me the Rams.
99% of football fans probably can't name 3 defensive players on the Cardinals. I'm going with the Rams, even if their defense might not be that talented. But last week against the Lions, they played really well. Give me the Rams. Cincinnati versus the Chiefs.
I'm going with Mahomes and the Chiefs.
I'm taking the Chiefs, not thinking twice about it.
Yeah, Joe Burrow and the Bengals look broken week 1. Give me KC.
Zach Taylor is 1-10 in weeks 1 and 2 since he's been the Bengals head coach. Give me the Kansas City Chiefs, but I think we do have a bounce back game from Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase.
Zach Taylor's 1-10. What's Joe Burrow's record in weeks 1 and 2 also?
Is it 1-10 with him?
You probably just had to remove Zach Taylor's first year.
Got it. I just want to make sure we also just...
Yeah, so it's probably
Ignore
1-8.
that part.
It's probably
Burrow's
1-8.
1-11.
It was a very...
1-11?
From the first 2 weeks, that was the stat I read yesterday.
1-11 or 1-10?
1-11. Maybe is yours not maybe counting last week's maybe?
Maybe. That might be something. Tampa Bay Buccaneers versus Detroit Lions.
Give me Detroit, man.
I'm taking the Lions.
Lions win easy.
High scoring game, but the Bucs defense can't keep up. I got the Detroit Lions. Chargers versus the Panthers.
This is going to be an ugly one. Give me the Chargers.
The Chargers are going to run all over them. J.K. Dobbins can potentially be Offensive Player of the Week. That's the type of performance I'm hoping for.
Path to 0-17 for the Panthers. Give me the Chargers.
Not only run, but I think this is Justin Herbert's big passing game under Greg Roman.
That'd be cool to
against
see.
the Panthers. 2-0 start. Rev, you slept on the Chargers. Give me the
slept on the
Chargers, baby.
Steelers.
Indianapolis Colts versus the Green Bay Packers.
I think AR has a big game. Give me the Colts.
As long as Malik Willis is under center for the Packers, I'm taking the other team. Give me the Colts.
Even if it was Jordan Love. Anthony Richardson's
he's
better.
talking spicy.
Give me the
He's
Colts,
He's
man.
back.
Packers at home, defense and rushing attack leads them to this victory. Give me Green Bay. The Raiders versus the Ravens.
I would easily take Lamar Jackson and the Ravens.
I'm taking the Ravens, not thinking twice about this.
Ravens
one
might
either.
win by 30.
I'm going with the Ravens. Next game, the Giants versus the Commanders.
This is an ugly one, but I am taking the Giants on this
I
one.
made a vow to never take the Giants again, and here I am, taking the Giants.
I cannot take the Giants 2 weeks in a row. Give me the Commanders.
Daniel Jones plays really well against Washington, but I think this is a Dexter Lawrence game. He's going to wreak havoc and be the main reason the Giants win. Pittsburgh Steelers versus the Denver Broncos.
I am locking in with Pittsburgh 2 weeks in a row. Give me the Steelers.
Please pray that Bo Nix makes out this game alive. I'm taking the Steelers.
I don't know if we see more than 20 points scored in this game, but the Steelers are going to win ugly.
This is a big rushing game from the Steelers. I think they're going to run the ball all over Denver, and I think they're going to force Bo Nix to making some mistakes. Give me the Pittsburgh Steelers. Next game up, prime time, Sunday Night Football, Bears versus the Texans.
Oh, this is easy. Give me Aura, man.
I'm
taking the
hoping
Texans.
we see Caleb play significantly better than he did versus the Titans, but it's not going to matter. I'm taking Houston.
I do think Caleb plays better, but Houston wins.
I got the Houston Texans, and last game, Monday Night Football, the Atlanta Falcons versus the Philadelphia Eagles.
Fly, Eagles, fucking fly.
We're flying high.
Jalen Hurts.
If the Falcons lose this game, they really got to be panicking because next week they go into KC, they'll be 0-3. Historically, you don't make the playoffs if you're 0-3. Falcons had hype coming into this offseason. I'm going with the Eagles, and give me a big game from the former New York Jet, Bryce Huff. He's going to have a monster performance, and that's going to do it for our NFL Pick'em Week 2 predictions. You guys can follow us on Twitter at PickAsidePod, on Instagram and TikTok at PickAsidePodcast. Thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you guys next time.